seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
Good morning to you, and how are you doing?
This is the Situation Room.
Happy Monday. Today, the 25th day of January 2020. How are you doing? Welcome to the show. We're glad that you were able to join us. Good morning, Nduoko and CT Muga. Starting with the lady.
Well, good morning, Eric Latif. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Mm-hmm. And I thank you for asking me.
Well, you're welcome.
Bwana Muga.
Kaka.
Hujambo?
Mimi si jambo. Sijui wewe.
Hata mimi sikujui.
Na tuendelee hivyo hivyo. Lakini tukijipatia muda, tutajuana hivi punde.
Yes. Yes. Tutajuana hivi punde?
Yes.
Haya, punde si punde.
Punde had not become punde.
Ndu, how was your weekend?
Oh, fine, thank you. Yeah, all right. And yours?
It was fine, thank you.
Good.
Yes. Kabisa. And yours, City?
Yes.
It was fine?
Yes.
Very good.
City, you're fine?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes, I am. I just keep being... this weather fascinates me in this sense. It's unpredictable. And it has been said it is unpredictable. It has also been said that this climate change is not only real, but it's upon us. But now, more and more, as I pay a little more heed to the realities of the climate that is before us or the weather, I realize how very true it is.
So this is climate change?
Climate change and its vagaries. The effects of climate change, the outcome, the manifestations of it. Things that you thought you had understood and the norms that you're accustomed to, and suddenly you are being told, please accustom yourself to other norms.
Change your norms.
Yes.
Okay. Welcome to the show, everybody. Today we'll have a number of conversations. On top of looking at the main newspaper headlines of the day and the weekend, we'll also be having conversations about the Nairobi Metropolitan Services. We'll have a discussion with the boss himself, Major General Mohammed Abdullah Badi. He will be with us from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And then in the 8 o'clock hour, we want to take a look at what's happening in this whole area. Baringo, Turkana, West Pokot, Elgeyo Marakwet, and the rest of Kapedo. What is it that's happening there? Is it just some cultural practices? Is it cultural practices that have been misused by criminal elements? What takes place here? People have died and people are dying. So far, about 10 people have died, including 4 security officers. And there's a major security operation happening there. So we'll have a conversation with the Rift Valley Regional Commissioner, Mr. George Natembea, and one of the local MPs who will be speaking to us to just try and understand what's happening and how can this be resolved once and for all. As we do all that, we always remind ourselves that there is COVID-19 in the community. How has it been doing over the weekend?
Well, by the end of today, the world will have recorded 100 million cases of COVID-19.
Okay.
We are now standing at 99,768,213. From a few countries alone, possibly one country alone, those numbers will tip the scales over 100 million because of what we see in terms of still rapid infections, specifically in countries like the United States, where they are now at 25,702,125 cases with almost 430,000 deaths. Unfortunately, they've seen 30,000 deaths in the last 2 weeks. This has happened in the US, right? So those numbers continue to scale. The Biden presidency has promised 100 million vaccines in the first 100 days of their administration. And this is coming out now. So far, they've only been able to... they've only been able to vaccinate just under 20 million, and they're looking at this as to go a lot quicker. So they're saying in the first 100 days of the presidency, they will have administered, or they hope to administer, 100 million vaccine shots. The previous administration now has come under serious criticism in terms of what they have been able to do when it comes to the care and the attention being paid to COVID-19. Hospital numbers hit their highest levels earlier this month across the United States. But according to Dr. Anthony Fauci, who now is part of Biden's COVID dream team, they're seeing some of the infections leveling off, and but still warned that the country remains in a very serious situation. So they're taking the vaccine rollout quite seriously, and like we saw now, the wearing of masks mandatory in certain areas, and looking at making sure that they keep infections as low as possible. All right. If we look at what's happening in Kenya with what we've been told by research organizations as of last week, we're likely to see that higher numbers will come about end of February, beginning of March, because of coming back to school after the Christmas holidays, etc., etc. All right. The numbers having been recorded in Kenya yesterday, 85 new cases, excuse me, and 4 new deaths in the country. Numbers still remain right around that average. 129 the day before, 139 the day before that, and 186 previously. So it'll be interesting to see what those numbers look like this week. And again, we're going into the final days before the vaccines come into the country. We're still yet to get communication on how that is going to happen. But like we said, it's perhaps we know they're coming, and the day before they come, they'll tell us exactly what we need to do. So that's what we're looking at now. Everybody now, most countries around the world are focusing on the vaccine and how it's going to help to mitigate COVID-19.
Okay. Hey. All right. And in Europe?
So the numbers that we're
UK
looking at in
and the
Europe,
rest.
continue to have issues. So the United Kingdom, and we know that they're going to be on this lockdown until March. At least for them to be able to stave off those numbers. But if we look at now, the UK having been at number 9, 10 just a couple of weeks ago is now at number 5. The UK having 3.6 million COVID-19 cases and now almost 100,000 deaths. If we look at what they recorded, and this is across the United Kingdom, so taking into consideration Great Britain, Northern Ireland, Wales and Scotland, yesterday, they recorded 30,000 new cases and 610 new deaths, giving reason as to why they're going to continue with the lockdowns in most of these countries. We see France also with some high numbers, 3 million now, Spain at 2 million, Italy at 2.4 million, Germany at 2.1 million. So, the numbers continue to rise, and significantly so. Everybody's looking towards the vaccine, but at the same time trying to keep those who are sick getting better and keep off as many deaths as possible. But look at what's happening in France, whereby it was seen as a problem area. France is recording 18,000 cases, and an average of that, 23,000 the day before, 23,000 the day before that, whereby the UK is recording double that number. Okay? Giving rise to their reasons. So, the number's still high. And, of course, we see that the second strain, similar to that in South Africa, is present in Spain, Italy, and the UK.
Okay.
COVID still here.
Indeed it is. Well, let's keep doing what we ought to do. So we are now in the second week of the lockdown of schools, shutdown of schools and all in Rwanda, right?
Yes. And Malawi as well.
And Malawi. So then we see what comes out of that in terms of then what they want to do, what they announce, the measures that they put in place, how they are able to gauge the success of those measures. Any new numbers reported over the weekend in Rwanda?
Well, okay. So yesterday, which is a pretty high number considering what Rwanda has been going through and reporting. So yesterday they recorded 328 new cases, 2 new deaths, again giving reason as to why the lockdown is in place and the likelihood of them now. Understandably, the lockdown is only in Kigali. Right? And they're waiting to see if they will record or report new numbers. Then the lockdown goes through to other towns. But all school children in Kigali are at home now and waiting to see how that'll open up in the next couple of days. So just to look at another country where closure of schools has happened because of what they see was Malawi. Malawi's numbers for the longest time were very, very low. Now from a population of so they have almost 20,000 cases across the country. This is from a population of 19 million, right? So if we're looking at what they recorded yesterday and over the last couple of days, yesterday 956 new cases, 1,000 cases before that, 1,300 cases before that, and this is from a country that was recording 6, 12, 18. So now you can see when they start to look at numbers like this, especially after the new year, then now we can understand why they said, you know what, we can't continue like this and let's shut it down. And we must also look at who they border and who they live in close proximity to: South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, in that area. So this is now moving from lockdown in specifically, they had said also same thing like Uganda, lockdown in Blantyre, asking children to stay at home. If this spreads, then they shut down the whole nation. But we must also look at what happens with their neighbors. In terms of giving details of what kinds of strains they're seeing, I wouldn't be surprised if the strain that we saw in South Africa finds its way.
Has already found its way.
Or it's already found its way, but we just don't know the details. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's take a break at this point. Take a look at the weather at 13 minutes after 6 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. The live stream is up. Spice FM KE on YouTube, on Facebook and Twitter. And we are also on www.spicefm.co.ke. Shortly, we take a look at the newspaper headlines. Good morning.
Have you seen the... Am I live?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you.
Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me what channel is Spice FM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
What
you.
a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
The weather with Spice FM.
All right, Monday morning in Nairobi, mostly clear conditions at 16 degrees. We're going to see a high of 26 and lows of 15, and there's a chance of rain today. It's a bit cool this morning. Clear conditions, however, for most part of it, and we'll expect to see some rains coming in through today. Let's look at the Nyeri, where it's mostly cloudy at 12, highs of 23 and lows of 10. And in Nakuru, it's mostly cloudy at 14. We'll see highs of 28 and lows of 12. 25 will be the high in Eldoret, where it's clear this morning at 12. Light rain already in some parts of Kisumu, coming out to be a warm day with highs of 30 and lows of 19. Kakamega will be mostly clear at 14, highs of 30 and lows of 13. It's also raining in Mombasa at this moment, 25 degrees. We'll look at highs of 31 and lows of 24. Clear conditions in Malindi at 26, going to highs of 31 today. Taking a look then out of Kenya, in Kampala, raining this morning in some parts at 18, highs of 27. It's also looking like rain through most of the morning in Dar es Salaam. 26 at the moment, going to highs of 31 and lows of 25. 15 degrees in Johannesburg, 21 the high and lows of 14. It is raining here as well and likely to go well into early afternoon. The haze remains over the city of Lagos. At 26, we're going to a warm day of highs of 34 and lows of 23. Clear conditions in Kinshasa at 24, highs of 32 and lows of 22. It's snowing in Beijing this morning and it's at -1 already. We'll only see highs of 3 and lows of -8. Cloudy conditions in Paris at 2 degrees. There's a chance of flooding today with rain coming in the morning and combining with snow. It'll only go to highs of 7 today and lows of 0 flat. It's 1 degree, getting colder in London. Clear skies, however, going to highs of 5 and lows of 1. Sunday night at -1 in New York. We'll step into Monday morning with highs of just 1 and lows of -3.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
It is 16
Nairobi.
minutes after 6. This is a happy Monday to everybody. Who is online this early?
Everybody is bright and early, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. That's what it looks like this morning. Laban Tanu is tuned in this morning. Robin Bogo says, good morning, everyone. Spicing in from Mombasa, having a lovely and bright new week so far. Shadrach Kiprono also tuned in. Prit Pal Simba is tuned in from Australia this morning. It's well into afternoon, Monday morning there. Good morning, Sunshine Family. That's from Hams Way. Beta Asley tuned in from Machakos. Cyprian Mora is happy that it's the last week of January and is asking how you guys are.
This is the last week of January.
Apparently.
Wow.
This is the last time you can say this.
Hey. Okay.
Martha Kemi, good morning from Kissy. And Lovely Dav is saying we should add the volume. I don't know. Maybe turn up the volume on your radio or on your phone a little bit and then let's see, right?
No, it has a meaning. Ongeza volume just basically means I got you. I hear what you're saying. I agree.
Oh, she said so low.
Say it louder.
Well, okay. Let's see. Master Dan tuned in from a freezing Beijing this morning. Enjoy the snow while inside. Lawrence Carrier, good morning. Tuned in and glad to be in the room. Karibu Sana. Oh, and this is where Anne is tuned in from. She's tuned in from the UAE. Ses Kenya is tuned in from Budapest in Hungary. And she says, please keep the conversation going. And Davy Happ, good morning, team. Waterman Jeffrey is tuned in from Minneapolis and says, good morning, folks. Cyprian Moura, did you know that County 32 City is where you grew up? Did you know this?
It's a good thing to grow up in County 32, isn't it?
Yeah.
As opposed to County 19.
There you go.
Or 31.
Or 40.
Good morning, everybody.
Oh, well, thank you very much for letting CT know where he grew up. Okay, now CT, today's proverb.
Right. The opportunity given to a monkey to wear clothes does not guarantee it joining the dining table.
Wow.
Let me repeat it. The opportunity given to a monkey to wear clothes does not guarantee it joining the dining table.
That's what they keep telling us, these dynasties.
And what do the hustlers tell us?
That we will occupy this table.
And sit
With
on
or
it.
without clothes.
Sit on it.
With or without clothes.
Yo.
You're not wearing clothes, so
just
you can't
because I
sit
gave
here.
you a suit doesn't mean that you are. No.
I will come wearing slippers.
Remember how it's being framed. The opportunity given to the monkey to wear clothes.
I've given you
Even
the
wearing
opportunity.
clothes is an opportunity that's being given.
Bestowed on you.
Yes.
You know, the monkey actually has clothes. Huh?
Hey.
This is the monkey being viewed from a human perspective.
Yes.
The monkey is fine.
The monkey is fine. It's
On its own. It's perfectly okay. Then we decide to humanize
needs
it
clothes.
And give
and
it
we give
clothes.
it clothes.
And then after that, you tell it now, even after wearing clothes.
And then we become World Bank. We bring conditionalities.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a good proverb, though. The opportunity given to a monkey to wear clothes does not guarantee it
Joining the dining table.
joining the dining table. Sisi tunakula nyama, wewe utakaa pale ukiangalia. Let's look at the headlines then.
Fresh audit raises red flag over NYS tenders. Business Daily. Okay, the Auditor General, Nancy Gathungu, said a review of procurement contracts by NIS through the State Department of Youth found massive anomalies. And these anomalies include the following: rejection of discounts by suppliers, payment for goods without ascertaining delivery, placing of supply orders without approval. Does this not sound like KEMSA?
Sounds like NYS.
Isn't it sad that that kind of narrative,
Rejection
you can
of-
have quite a number of organizations that could be about
Meaning suppliers offer discounts. Told no, we don't want
No, we don't need
discount. We don't need. We don't want.
This is how much we want to pay.
Yes, and then we take it a notch higher. We pay for goods without ascertaining whether they've been delivered or not.
Okay.
And then there are suppliers. You know, there are procedures to actually supplying.
Right. Right.
Or even seeking supplies.
Yes.
You go ahead and procure, seek supply without approval.
What? So, is she looking at what's happening presently, or is she looking at years gone by?
It is years gone by, and as things stand. Remember, what the Auditor General always does, it looks at what has happened.
Yes.
Yes. Now, this is what has happened against what ought to have happened or how it ought to have been done.
Right.
And what they're now pointing out is the procedure wasn't followed. Yes, these things may have been needed.
Yep.
Yes, they may have been required, but procedure was not followed.
Yeah.
Yes.
And even in some cases, you're seeing if competition for overpricing by the suppliers is going to be of benefit to you as the organization, why are you rejecting? Maybe there's an explanation. Maybe they're saying, yes, this person offered a discounted price, but we looked at the quality of what they were offering to supply, and it wasn't
Up to scratch.
up to scratch. And so we said, no. It is not about the price. It is about the specifications of what we want you to supply.
Let me just read the supply which have anomalies, all right? So that you understand them.
Yes.
Supply of camouflage material, okay, NYS and other security forces, all right?
Yes.
Supply of woolen blankets. Supply of olive green jerseys. Supply of canned beef and pineapples. Supply of high ankle military boots. Supply of uniform materials. Supply of gum boots. Supply of police uniform.
Yeah. Anyway, this is NYS. Let's see how far this story goes, and how many people can be netted over this. But kudos to the Auditor General for always remaining steadfast and true.
And that
to the
office
job.
has been steadfast for the longest time.
Oh, yes.
And it has been a pain to very, very, very many individuals. Yes. Even in times when beyond raising the report, there wasn't much they could do. But now, at least we have a DPP that seems eager to actually do due diligence.
Yeah.
We have an anti-corruption commission and ethics and anti-corruption commission that are also willing to do due diligence.
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of that due diligence by those two agencies, so the EACC has cleared the National Treasury of wrongdoing in a protracted case accusing the government of ceding 2.4 billion shillings worth of shares in Telkom Kenya to the private sector. So the report was released last week, and it closed the case under the recommendations of the DPP for lack of sufficient evidence. The anti-graft body said the report prepared and forwarded to the DPP last year recommended the investigations be closed because there was no evidence. This was about, so the government has shares in Telkom Kenya. Then the government has sold or let go of these shares to private sector. How was this done? Was there any wrongdoing, especially in the parts of officers at the National Treasury? And after investigations now, that's what they're saying, it was reported that the Treasury failed to avail government balance of 2.4 billion shillings 6 months after signing the deal, exposing the state to a loss of 10% in a stake in Telkom Kenya. All those accusations, basically, they said, we have the EACC saying, no, we don't have anything that actually can hold ground on this particular matter. So recommended to the DPP, just drop the case.
And when they started it, they believed that they had sufficient evidence to take that case forward, isn't it?
Yep.
Yes.
Basically, there was a complaint raised about this, so EACC got into the issue of investigating it.
And they investigated.
And now they tell us,
and lo and behold,
that there's nothing untoward.
Okay.
Yes. And then another one, just on the same page, this is on page 24, the business pages of the Standard this morning. This road between Mombasa and Nairobi. Okay? Oh, our president goes to America. Our president agrees into deals with America. We even had a conversation with a immediate former American ambassador, and he told us American companies are going to roll out and start doing this road. Dueling and widening of this proper highway. Now, nearly 4 years since the state unveiled the firm to undertake the construction of the Mombasa and Nairobi Expressway, the project has not moved an inch. Maybe it has done a couple of centimeters. Doubt is now settling in, with many wondering whether this 300 billion shillings project will ever commence. Had the project moved according to plan, some sections would have been in use today. The road would be near completion if the initial plan was to go on. Now, the initial plan was that this road was to be complete in 2024.
What's the problem?
2024.
So they can't start until when?
Sources at the Transport and Roads Ministry, as well as Kenha, say the project may not take off because it has been pushed to the back burner. Despite the major delays and other pointers that things are not rosy, the company that was now to do it, Bechel, projects optimism, with officials saying they remain in touch with the Kenyan state agency. They say that the firm is eager to start the work. The company is, however, cagey on the details, and they only give a one-line response. We are still interested, and we continue to work with Kenha and the National Treasury to start work.
Okay,
It was
so
supposed
they
to have started.
eager and committed, but this eagerness and commitment is not going to show until...
Yep. So there are a couple of things. One, there's a government, ministry, and Kenha on the one hand, and on the other side is the company that was given the contract in 2017. It was identified 2017. A number of things that are supposed to happen on this road include setting up, this whole tolling concept that we've now taken. It's our new thing. Every new thing, toll station. You want to move from here to downstairs? We'll put up a toll station on second floor. Toll. Apparently, according to this story, Bechel has been wary of tolling the road, arguing that it could dissuade motorists from using it, making them revert to Mombasa and Nairobi highway because the state expanded several stretches that experienced congestion in the past. This includes the segment between the river and the town of Machakos town. So they're saying, wait, if we start saying that we expand this road and then we put up very many toll stations, people will be using Panya routes.
But you know something, even when they talk about that expansion, the jams on that section that they just mentioned was expanded. They're horrendous.
Which ones? Up to the river turnoff.
Yes, and even beyond, even as you head towards Machakos. There still are jams on that road. And movement is... Yes, the road is different.
It's still actually being dualed. So from the Kitengela Junction all the way to the Machakos turnoff, the contractor is still on the ground. They are doing this.
It's been on the ground for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, since 2017, just before the elections. But they're there. Now, you could find some other underlying issues in terms of, an American company, American law signed and witnessed by government of America, and systems in place in America, and the issue of seeing somebody on the side.
Do you know that the plans for doing that road began long before this particular government came into being?
Yes.
Long. When I say long, I mean long. To the point where there were even signs indicating that this particular company is actually about to start building this road. And I'm not talking about 10 years ago, 20 years ago, more than that. Yes. So what is it about this road? I'm beginning to think it's jinxed.
There's something, eh? You may actually find that the one that was signed for going all the way to Nakuru and beyond Nakuru may begin before this one. Remember last year when the president went, where was he? France? And signed a new deal with the French company to come and expand the road from Rironio going all the way to that place. That's a very cold place. What's it called? Tambarua. Very, very cold place. You may see that beginning to work before this one starts.
It may happen.
And that's when you sit back and you ask yourself, so what is it about? Why would a project like this not begin? What kind of serious setbacks are holding it? Because there must be something that is major that makes it. Yes.
There's more to than meets the eye.
You can imagine an ambassador would ask, okay, our company is ready. They're saying they're ready. Let's get on the ground. And then there's an answer that's given that holds water.
One of the things that we have found, it may not necessarily apply to this particular company, but one of the bottlenecks that we've found to these major contracts has not been that the contractor is unwilling. It's not that the finances aren't there, it is us. Somebody is asking to be given kickbacks and it isn't going through.
Yep.
It isn't working.
Somebody wants to frustrate it. So
yes. Somebody wants to generally create that particular bottleneck. That in many cases has been an issue with very many projects that we've had in this country. So,
very unfortunate.
Well, it's
Isn't it unfortunate that whenever you hear such projects, the thing that you think about is such kind of negative.
Yes.
You're
Somebody
thinking,
must be eating something.
Well,
somewhere.
I am yet to be given examples of where that hasn't happened in abundance for me to take an alternate view.
Right.
But so long as what I know is, look, even the preference for certain projects at a certain time. Remember the debate that we've had for the longest time. Do we honestly need these huge capital investments right now? It's a debate that's still going on. I actually like what's going on. It's a good thing. The road network being expanded, infrastructure being expanded and increased. It's a good thing.
Yep.
However, against the backdrop, because even if we're not paying for it now, we are going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yes. And these loans, none of them, these aren't grants. They aren't things that are given to you. No. It's a loan. And even if the interest is low, if you look at the amounts that we're borrowing,
it's gonna be some.
Even if you're told the interest is 1%, it is a lot of money.
It's a chunk of change when it
Yes.
comes to paying that. Absolutely.
It's a lot of money. Let's take a break at this point. 28 minutes to 7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Let's take a look at the traffic.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Health is an important component in the life of a human being. A nation's prosperity is pegged on its citizens' well-being and proper health infrastructure. The right to health is a fundamental human right guaranteed in the Constitution of Kenya. But during this pandemic period, the health sector has faced many challenges that have affected their services. Pregnant women and those seeking reproductive health services have been the most affected. On our second episode of Kiocha Hoja, we will focus on the effects of COVID-19 on women's health and how they can be cushioned in the future.
All right, Monday morning, woken up with a bang this morning. I see very slow traffic from KCA University towards Muthaiga on the highway, and this is smack on 6:30, so it's moving very, very slow this morning. Mombasa Road inbound from Syokimau, slow as well. Already at a bumper-to-bumper situation as you try to approach the airport turnoff today. That's already moving very, very slowly. It looks like it's going to be a messy one. So if you've not left yet, you might want to think about a way of waiting it out and going in later on or using an alternate route. But if you're entering into this one, this is what we're seeing. We're only seeing red through and through on Mombasa Road today as you head out into the CBD. All right, let's look at Jogo Road coming out all the way from Hamza and then out towards the City Stadium roundabouts on towards Landys Road. Is also slow. It's picked up quite some already as folks are trying to get into work and school this morning. So it's already looking like a great traffic situation. We're going to keep you company, that's for sure. Let us know where you might be stuck and we can offer an alternate route, or if you found a way to get around this traffic this morning, do share and let's make Monday morning a little easier. Spice FMKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter or text on 40127.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
More and more headlines to look at. But before we do that, there is somebody who is talking to you, Ndu.
Yes.
This is Vincent.
Okay, so Vincent says, and I'll say it in French. What it's supposed to be saying. Bonjour l'équipe, aujourd'hui je décide de rendre la vie d'un duo facile en tweet en français, I think is what he meant to say. And that is, good morning team. Today I've decided to make Ndu's life a little easier and tweet in French. And he says, I'm locked till the end of the show. Bonjour, bonjour mon frère.
Say that again, read it again in French.
Bonjour l'équipe, aujourd'hui j'ai décidé de rendre la vie de Nduoko facile en tweet en français.
Ah oui, bonjour. Aujourd'hui, love the tweet.
Couchon. You will now want to know what I said.
Bon.
Couchon. Okay.
Couchon.
I know my limitations.
So you guys are l'équipe. Okay.
Okay, so we are l'équipe.
We are l'équipe.
All right. So, l'équipe, let's look at more headlines.
Toxic weed is choking flamingos to death in Rift Valley's lakes. Tens of flamingo carcasses dangle from branches and thorns of Prosopis juliflora, also known as mavenge. From afar, the sight of thousands of flamingos spread across Lake Bogoria is magical, but on taking a closer look, you notice a big problem. Tens of flamingo carcasses dangle from branches. The scene looks like a mass suicide of flamingos. Not a pretty sight. It's worrying, and this is according to Lake Bogoria Senior Warden James Kimaru. And he says tens of flamingos died after they were trapped by Prosopis while trying to either land on the shores or take off. So this plant, essentially, is killing the flamingos because they get stuck. Currently, estimates from the latest water bird count in Lake Bogoria projects flamingos at 800,000, meaning the lake hosts almost half of the world's 3.5 million flamingos. The situation being experienced in the lakes is as a result of the increasing water levels that has seen the waters rise and spill over to areas that have been ravaged by the invasive mavenge plant. According to Mr. Kimaru, even though some of the plants have been submerged and dried up, they still pose a threat to the birds. Mavenge is an aggressive invader that replaces native vegetation in rangelands. It is ranked among top 100 invasive species, ravaging arid and semi-arid areas of Ethiopia, Sudan, Egypt, West Africa, Australia, and South America, among other countries. So there's a problem here because this plant is choking the flamingos and it's affecting the numbers. It's not, the pictures aren't looking very nice. And it looks like it could be an ecological disaster if the situation is not taken care of, if the weed at least is not removed to some part to take care of this. So rising water levels essentially don't allow the birds to see where this weed is, and it ends up choking them to death. Now,
This issue of the mavenge, a number of things. So, it was introduced to do something. Then basically they had forgotten that it can become invasive and run amok.
So it was introduced because of the dry conditions, right? Yes.
Now, efforts to control its spread have been made by the government many times. Local communities have raised issue with this. In fact, they've even taken the government to court over this. Remember, there was a goat that was taken to court as a witness to testify the effect of this.
City has a question.
It was basically toothless. A goat was taken to court by the local community because they were saying, look at what's happening. So goats are going to eat this plant, and then it affects them. The teeth are falling off. A toothless goat was taken to court. What happened? Lost his teeth.
The man of God has boiled.
I'm telling you, this is like that guy, Barak and the donkey. The donkey
Yes.
Balak. The goat now.
Barak, former president.
Balak.
Former president of America.
I was close, Abi. There's a problem. So what was essentially introduced to be a solution is now a major problem.
Big time. Big time. And even as we talk about, it's a toxic, yes, what is the solution?
Which ministry is supposed to be in charge of this?
Environment.
Because it can't be one ministry.
That's what I was going to say. It's a combination of many. But environment definitely is one of them. It takes the lead here. This is a problem because now you have the thing that essentially...
And who's our CS for environment? One Mr. Tobiko?
Yes. Keriaka Tobiko.
Yes.
It's been there for a while. The PS is Dr. Chris Kiptor. The issue of this weed, and now you can see even from this story, it's not just in Bogoria, Baringo. It goes into Mandera, Marsabit, Wajir, Kajiado, Migori. It has colonized parts of Taita Taveta, Malindi, Samburu, Isiolo as well. Tana River, Turkana. It goes, it starts, it spreads. You can imagine by the time it's spreading, the locals have tried everything they can. Uproot it, burn it, everything.
This is
spray
a problem
things.
that has dug its roots well into the sand. And, to be
And
able to
what,
remove it would be a problem.
how does it spread?
Well, look, the
How does
thing
it
is,
proliferate? Because this one is beyond spreading even.
yeah, it's beyond spreading. But the thing is that when
like
it was
hyacinth.
discovered, it's like hyacinth, exactly. But in this case, when it was discovered, it was a plant that was going to be able to sort out the issues on arid land, right? So grow it. And remember, the water levels had not risen at that point. It needs very little water. And that's why one of the reasons why it was introduced. It needs very little water to survive. And they needed some kind of vegetation to cover the land because things were quite thick. Pun not intended, right? So now what has happened, the water levels have risen significantly over the last 10 years. So what has happened? A plant that would ordinarily need very little water to grow, now you have water in abundance. It's gone in and its roots have dug in deep. Even to begin to be able to remove it is going to be a major problem. Because, it's been, when was it introduced? We were looking at the 80s, right? 30, 40 years later, to start to even find where its source is going to be very, very difficult.
Ngumu sana. Ngumu sana. It becomes a big issue. So let's just see what they're going to do about it. Because Kefri says, the environment experts are saying, Baringo County Kefri official Simon Choge said the plant has been spreading fast and the current control methods are thinning, grinding the pods to make livestock feeds, and charcoal burning from the plant. That's what they've been doing. So basically just go and make charcoal burning from this plant, try and harvest it, put it in some other use and see if it can be of benefit to you.
Yeah.
But still, the spread is faster than the use. And the impact that it's having, even if you burn charcoal and your livestock cannot graze out there,
That is a problem.
it becomes an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, can I give you another story?
Yes, please.
It would appear that 3 counties have decided to sack striking nurses and clinical officers. Okay, the counties of Meru, Kisii, and Taita Taveta have been accused of issuing dismissal letters to striking healthcare workers. The Kenyan Union of Clinical Officers chairperson Peterson Washira said the letters were meant to intimidate employees. It is uncouth, he says, to have counties sack health workers instead of getting a solution to end the countrywide strike. So we're back into this thing again, okay? In Meru, the striking medics were issued with termination letters on January 18th. And this is therefore to inform you that your employment has been terminated, subject to Section 44 and 44.4 of the Employment Act 226. In Kisii, the employees were dismissed from service on December 12th, 2020. In the letter, the employees were given 42 days to appeal the decision. Taita Taveta terminated employees on the 8th of January with similar directives like those of Kisii and Meru. Despite issuance of termination letters, the union official has asked its members to ignore the threats and focus on safeguarding their own safety. Counties have remained adamant in having the strike end. We shall therefore not report to work until our issues are addressed, according to Washira. So the back and forth has not stopped.
So more and more counties are now dismissing their workforce.
Yes. They need people to come to work and get this.
And this is going to be a solution how?
That's the thing.
They're going to employ
square
new
peg,
people.
round hole kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like trying to force negotiations a certain way.
Not going to happen. No.
Yeah, trying to push it a certain way. It's 6:45. Let's take another quick break and then look at other headlines. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Keep it right here because we're looking at the headlines. In the next hour, we have conversations about the Nairobi Metropolitan Service. After that, we have conversations about Kapedo. And after that, we have conversations about politics and what's happening in the country. Good morning.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you home nice and chill. Everyone is welcome aboard. The hashtag is Spice Drive and, of course, Spice FMKE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
The Spice Drive with Monique. The official soundtrack of getting you where you need to be. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings
All right,
done
it's
right.
6:45 CT. the Star.
Right. KDF to buy 118 top military vehicles to fight Al-Shabaab.
Okay.
The fleet will come from Turkey, and it will cost the taxpayer 7.7 billion Kenya shillings.
For 118 vehicles. Okay.
You know, these vehicles that look like they are not only bulletproof, they are everything proof. Okay? Solid.
Seriously armored.
Yes, steel everywhere. In fact, you actually get the impression that there must be some sort of steel that they put in tires as well, so that it also becomes bulletproof. But they're impressive to look at. Okay? Now, why this has hit the public domain is something that I'm wondering about, because these purchases usually are not in the public domain. Not really. Security issues are not things that you sort of like get to hear and read about every single day. And every once in a while, when you read them, and that's why I picked on it, you will read it, good thing, we are buying armed vehicles. Not long from now, you'll hear another story that about this purchase and how things ought not to have gone the way they went, and it ought to have been some other way. But nonetheless, it appears that we still consider Al-Shabaab a serious threat, and we are preparing to. But against this backdrop, there were also rumors that part of our problem when fighting Al-Shabaab is not just military equipment, even the arms that we have, that we were not probably equipped. There were even rumors that the Al-Shabaab were actually better equipped than our armed forces. But these are things that need to be verified by the ministry or by the government spokesman.
Interesting rumors.
Yes.
Yeah. As we talk about that, fighting Al-Shabaab in Somalia, Al-Shabaab is in Kenya. Story on page 8 of The Standard talks about residents of Mandera County being anxious as leaders are split over the presence of Al-Shabaab. Over the past few months, residents are saying that militants have taken over mosques, imposed attacks on local businessmen, and destroyed crucial installations such as telecommunication masts in preparation for what many fear could be a major attack. Now, members of Amniyat, the group's military intelligence wing, who are charged with planning and executing attacks, are launching assaults on targets hundreds of kilometers from their base in neighboring Somalia after months of calm and preemptive strikes by Kenyan security forces. This month alone, this is January alone, Mandera has suffered 3 attacks attributed to Al-Shabaab. Last week, Al-Shabaab militants attacked a Nairobi-bound bus, prompting a shootout between gunmen and security escort. Intelligence reports are showing that the bus from Mandera was stopped by 6 heavily armed men who proceeded to separate male from female passengers before demanding to know if any of them was a non-local or worked for government. An eerie reminder of that attack in 2014 when 28 people were killed when the bus was attacked. So there's growing concern within Mandera that these guys are not just fighting from across the border, that they've actually infiltrated, that they've even come in and they're so blatantly doing their things that they've taken over mosques and they're starting to charge a levy. In this country of ours, we looked at how Al-Shabaab was charging levies and collecting taxes worth billions of shillings, more than Mandera County can even think of receiving from the national government and from itself in Somalia.
In fact, they were competing very favorably with
the government of Somalia. Now here they are collecting taxes in Kenya, according to this report.
The infantry.
Yes. So let's let them get the Turkish vehicles if that is going to happen.
Well, it is being reported that they're at an advanced stage. Yes, these vehicles are actually called APCs. Yes.
The anti-personnel, armored personnel carriers.
Yes, armored personnel carriers.
Right.
We already have some.
Many.
But these particular ones that we want to purchase have proven themselves very, very worthy in Syria. And their track record is good. Yes.
And they're made by Turkish.
Yes, they're made by Turkey. Okay. We have a current fleet, and they consist of what you call Pumas M2615, WMZ 551, BSI, and Mamba MKS Bastion. I'm not going to explain what this. CPS VWX. No, I'm not explaining any of this.
Oh, you're not going to explain those.
I'm just going to read it. Yes, so that you understand.
Got it.
Yes.
So we just go with the letters.
Just go with the letters.
Okay. So, ODM leader Raila Odinga on Saturday commissioned the dredging of Lake Victoria, which will see bigger vessels dock at the Kisumu port. who is also the African Union High Representative for Infrastructure Development, said the works will help restore activities at the port that has remained dormant since the collapse of the East African Community in 1977. He said he was hopeful for the port's revival, and the meter gauge railway would help boost the region's economy. The dredging would allow more than 10 ships to dock concurrently and increase the facility's circumference by 400 meters. Other feeder ports along the Gulf, outside the main lake area, also going to get a facelift. So, in terms of development, this is a good thing, no? The dredging of Kisumu Port comes at a time when efforts to revive ports and piers along the lake, including Homa Bay, Kendu Bay, Karungu Bay, and the Muhuru Bay, are in top gear. The elaborate network will also be supported by the ongoing revival of the railway line to the lakeside city. So with the rehabilitation of the railway, small towns along the line that died will come back to life. The project had earlier stalled over a contractual disagreement, which has since been addressed. The 70-meter long and 4,000-ton dredger was shipped from Uganda by a Chinese firm, the Mango Tree Group.
Okay.
But also of interest, even Kisumu actually is a buzz with all sorts of developments, but there have been casualties. The casualties are the wananchi who are in the Juakali industry, those who have small businesses that are perhaps carried out in makeshift stalls or in containers. They have been casualties because many of them conducted their businesses on land that actually, some of it was railway land, some of it was land that actually was not particularly meant for any permanent businesses, but nonetheless.
Or it was on the way to the port. So
it was on the way to the port on the side of the road. Yes. So at best they would get a temporary occupation license, but many of them have been displaced. And of note is that many of them have difficulties figuring out where else they could move to.
Was there a conversation between the county and the local business community on how maybe they can be relocated?
Yes, notice was provided.
Maybe, no, like the county providing an
alternative. Alternatives have always been discussed, and there has always been mentioned.
Like setting up this is a proper.
Yes, that has been mentioned. The only problem is that many of those businesses were set up in places where they believed they would be awash with clients.
Yeah.
And the alternatives usually are away from the town center. So the question they raise is, how then do you conduct this business when you are clearly far away from the town center? And the location was the primary reason why you set up that business there.
What would you do if you were running a government and you clearly know that, well, yes, this is a place where many people are going to pass, but only a limited number of businesses can operate here. So you can't really say that, put up businesses in the middle of the road because people are passing here anyway. How would you address the needs of such people?
It's difficult.
Even if you come up with a new market area, how would you drive traffic towards that new market?
It's not one of these problems that has an easy solution. For this very reason, you can count the number of industries that actually exist in Kisumu. There were many industries before, but many of them went under. Okay, so if you look at the business culture in Kisumu, it is commerce, but small commerce.
Yeah.
Okay, and that has been the mainstay of very, very many families and very many people in Kisumu. So the alternative is difficult to arrive at. Right, like now, for instance, the Kibuye market is being revamped and rebuilt. There's been talk of moving the bus stop from the center of town to a new. All these things are good ideas. However, a requisite provision of an alternative to the people who conduct their businesses there, I think, ought to have been part of the planning. Now, I'm certain it is. But the problem is this. Like most things that are new, it takes getting used to.
Yes. So there'll be that resistance at that point. Because number one, if you're running a small business that's just doing day-to-day earnings and living, you don't want to be told, let's move there, people are going to move. You'll be wondering, by the time people start moving and adjusting, what will I be doing? How will my business survive?
Yes.
If you talk about moving a bus stop from the center of the city to someplace farther, it makes a lot of sense.
It does.
And then you can also imagine that, well, if matatus move to this new bus park, people. There'll be more traffic, people walking and driving towards there, boarders driving towards there. So even if you were to move with them, as long as people are coming to board the matatu here, and you are running a kiosk in the bus stop, you will still get your people.
You will.
But
you will.
Hey,
and also remember, if one was to think of moving things, the element of diversity would be useful. For instance, considering transportation that goes in this direction, your bus stop will be here. If you're coming from this place and going, it will be here.
Yeah.
Matatus, it will be here. The thinking all along has been centralized all these things in the same place.
Bring it all together so that when you're moving from one, if you've come from this side and you wanted to go to the other side,
yes,
you alight, you board.
Yes.
Move.
And that was always possible. But you see, when the population of any center increases, the thinking also ought to change. Even and that's where the ideas of moving these things come into being. And sometimes it's not even an idea. It's probably something that was planned a long time ago. But the implementation was delayed, and the necessity or the ability to bring about the changes has come about now. So you see those movements now. But as with changes everywhere, they take a lot of getting used to.
Sure.
Remember when one former Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, was Minister for Roads, and he decided to clear road reserves. There was a hue and cry. But bottom line, it's a road reserve.
Yeah.
Okay?
And today,
it is a road reserve.
Okay with it. It's still a road reserve.
It's
today.
a road reserve. It's a road reserve. And that's why, for many people who do business on road reserves, you are allowed to do business, but the license you're given is a temporary occupation license. Yes.
And you know full well that this is temporary.
One forgets.
You will be told when to move. And then you sell that business and you get goodwill and you move to another place. So the person who comes in does not have this whole background of this is a temporary license.
And by the way, the notice for that is not weeks, it's 24 hours.
This is temporary, you shall move.
So legally, there is very, very little you can actually do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So let's hope that we see better plight for those people. It's good that Kisumu is getting all this development. They're dredging now so that it can get bigger ships. We have the railway and the port now coming to operation. Some of these things, they may count as small, but in the grander scheme of things,
no, it's very, very significant. Yeah. It is extremely significant. But I have to be a little wet blanket here.
Yes, of course.
Yes, I have to be a wet blanket. I mean, why now?
Handshake.
I mean, these are things that could have happened a long time ago. It isn't as though Kisumu moved its geographical location from where it was to a new. And it's not as though
you realize that the problem was dredging today.
No.
You realize that, this dredging could have taken place a long time ago because you knew, okay, the reason why ships can't dock here is because the waters are too shallow. All right, so let's dredge. That's not something that you just came up with last. It's a problem that has been there for a very long, long time.
Okay. Okay.
What?
Wet blankets. Keep it right here for more conversations. Good morning. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. In the next hour, we talk about the Nairobi Metropolitan Service. What is it doing? And what is the county government of Nairobi doing? And what are the people of Nairobi experiencing? We're seeing very many questions and comments already coming in. When will they start upgrading Nairobi's sewer system and waste recycling? People talking about water everywhere. Water cartels are back up and running. There's a shortage of water in various estates in Nairobi, but there are new health facilities that are going to be opened up in Nairobi City County soon by the NMS, and plus other projects. We'll be hearing from the Director General himself. Good morning. It's 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life. This is the Situation Room the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the
All
nation.
right, it's already a
This
parking lot
is
on
a
Mombasa
talk
Road today. There is very little movement outbound to the city. Very slow, right around the SGR and then moving towards the airport turnoff and then out again past General Motors. It's really slow. We understand, look, guys, the construction that's taking place is slowing things down significantly. Then you're going to get to around Bellevue where the construction has picked up quite some. It's very, very slow then moving outbound towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. So, guys, this one is going to be very slow today. Let's look at Thika Road. That's also slow to the city. Getting off Kiambu Road, getting off around Muthaiga there, and then towards the Pangani Tunnel, equally as slow. So we're already looking at massive traffic this morning. This one needs some patience. Also, as much information that can flow would be great. Let us know where you might be stuck. We've already seen that the eastern and southern bypasses helping out folks this morning. You get stuck somewhere, do let us know. We'll at least give you some solutions or keep you company at best. Spice FM KE. That's how you can reach us on Twitter or text on 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
It is
the
2.5
only way
minutes
to
after
start
7
your day.
o'clock. Good morning and how are you doing? Thank you very much for tuning in to the Situation Room right here on Spice FM. We are now live on KTN Home for the next 2 hours as well. And we are on www.spicefm.co.ke, Spice FM KE on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter. Welcome to the Situation Room. C.T. Muga, today's proverb.
The opportunity given to a monkey to wear clothes does not guarantee it joining the dining table.
The opportunity given to a monkey to wear clothes
Human
does
clothes,
not
that is.
guarantee it.
No, not monkey suits. Human
clothes.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that now you've become human, you can come and sit with us at the dining
No
table.
guarantee whatsoever.
You're still a monkey. Get out there. Okay. So just because you've been given an opportunity to wear this suit, it doesn't mean that you're human. You're still a monkey.
Yes, and doesn't mean that you are going to join humans who have given you those clothes in this cultural activity called eating.
Right.
Yes.
I don't know. I am finding it very hard for me to divorce myself from this proverb and the Hustler dynasty. It's just my own translation of it.
That's the beauty of Proverbs.
Just because we have given you this opportunity doesn't mean that you're one of us.
No, it lends itself to a multiplicity of interpretations, really. So that, again, let me repeat, is the beauty of a proverb. You can fit it in whatever bracket you think is necessary. You don't limit it to just one thing.
No.
No, you don't.
No. Okay, so let's talk about Nairobi. The Nairobi Metropolitan Service was established last year, and a Director General was appointed by the President. And we learnt about this when we saw the former governor of Nairobi, then governor of Nairobi, Mike Mbuvi Sonko, signing off some functions of the Nairobi City County government with the Minister for Devolution, the Honorable Eugene Wamalwa. And then after that, we saw Major General Mohammed Abdallah Badi taking over NMS, and some work that the NMS has been doing. And there's been this back and forth between the NMS and the county government, especially under Mike Sonko. The NMS is now, getting some money that is budgeted for Nairobi because it's performing some functions of Nairobi City County. But beyond that, beyond the politics of it all, there's a lot that NMS has been doing. What is that it has been doing? There's a lot that it has been doing.
Well, I know when you say a lot, then you want to compare it to what has been the reality for the last few months, right? And we did see certain areas that had not seen a drop of water out of taps, and we've said this over and over. Some of the dormitory areas of Nairobi, South B, South C, that had not known water for 15 years, then having water run through their taps. And so the question came about, if this could happen in a matter of months, then what stopped it from having happened previously? Though we still see a problem in terms of garbage around the city and what is then being collected or who's supposed to collect it. There are certain parts where this has actually been cleaned up. Some of the road works that have been needed across the city, that is being cleaned up and that being sorted out. The famous Tomboya and the construction that's taking place there to be worked on within the city. However, probably the most notable and the most laudable is some of the hospitals that I think we'll be seeing completed over the next days and weeks. Happening within the city, whereby there was the need to have 100 hospitals completed, and that was going from clinic to full-fledged hospital level, clinic, dispensary, level hospitals. And I think right now we're looking at 4 or 6 having been completed or roundabout completion. So these are some of the things that we are looking at having been done within the city. However, with this, one of the big words that we continue to hear over and over again is the pocket. Do you really think that with the introduction of a new boss at the top, that they're going to easily let go of this stronghold that they've had, especially when it comes to money in their pockets? Very difficult.
Think about it. When you talk of a cartel, is it possible for a cartel to actually exist without the collusion of people who actually work within the county system?
It's difficult, I think.
It's almost impossible.
They must have found a way. Either they have the full blessing of senior people within government, or they've found a way of making sure that those in government cannot touch them. Either they have something against them, they have something on them, they are blackmailing them and telling them, look, I'll do what I need to do. You dare do something and I'll get you off that job.
Possibly.
Or they are partners in this. So it's not always that cartels are basically working in partnership. It could be cartels are working alone, but they have forced these officials to submission.
You see why I'm saying the collusion has to come into place, because someone has to complain about wrongdoing. Now, who has the mandate, for instance, to ensure that water is supplied? And how is that process? Is it that there's a pipe that was disconnected? Is it that water was simply not channeled to the pipes as they should? Whatever the case is, it always boils down to the responsibility that the county has over these matters. So for anything of this sort to actually happen, then, as you correctly put it, it may be that the people who are responsible are themselves the cartel, or they are part of the larger cartel. Because they know the need. You see, if I work in, say, a specific department, I will know the details of what that department is. I will know what the demands are. I will know what the supply. I will know everything. So I am actually best placed to actually understand how I can benefit from this. An outsider, someone who doesn't know that system, how will they even know it's profitable? Unless somebody who has that knowledge. It's not very dissimilar from cases that we hear of bank robberies. It is almost impossible for a bank robbery to take place unless somebody who is in the bank, on the banking system, has colluded with them. It's almost impossible. How do you, as a certified thief, know when it is that it is an appropriate time to rob a bank? Or when it is that a truck that is carrying money or a vehicle that's carrying money is moving from... How will you know? How will you know? So it's either someone who works with a security firm who has that job, or someone who works in the bank. So when you talk of cartels or these unholy alliances, there always has to be an insider, somebody who has that information. Yes.
So it's going to be very difficult in this one to actually start to make it work. It's not a matter then of not knowing who is involved in this, because it seems like something extremely simple when it comes to the solution, right? You know that there are cartels running, get rid of the cartels and reinstate the supply. It would appear extremely simple. But when you have something that appears to be so deeply tentacled in a system that has worked for the longest period of time, unraveling this and cutting off these cartels seems very difficult. It reminds me of what you saw in surgery and some of these documentaries that you would see where a doctor was trying to remove a tumor, but unfortunately the blood vessels that were feeding into the main system had grown so large that was the major surgery. It was not even removing the tumor. It was removing the connecting tissue between the problem and the source. That was the issue. So it looks like that's what's going to be the problem. That how do you cut away these huge blood vessels that have grown and grown
what sort of
over time?
documentaries do you like watching?
Oh, isn't that a question? Don't ask. We'll talk about that a
Goodness.
different day. But I mean, that's what you're looking at here. The connecting tissue had grown so thick over time that was the problem. That you would say so you're saying the problem is not water supply. You can supply water. The problem is not garbage collection. You can collect garbage and do away with it. But these middlemen that have become so corrupt over time, and the system then had become the modus operandi of operation. How do you remove that? How do you really work at it?
Well, actually, let me ask a more valid question, in my opinion. How do you remove a culture that is acceptable?
That is accepted, not acceptable. That is accepted.
No. I chose my words carefully. That is acceptable. Yes.
Acceptable to whom?
To those who are perpetrating it and those around them. Because, you see, we're talking about this push and this culture and this religion called greed that we have immersed ourselves into, because it doesn't matter whether you remove one group, another group will come in. Meaning, this group aren't the only people who are focused on benefiting from this. No, the others. It's a trend. It's like a queue. No one really cares who gets there. Everyone, it's like you just take over from where the other person left off, and you continue that trend. So even as we talk about the systems, actually, how do you get to a point where you stop people being greedy?
Yeah.
Is it really impossible to get rid of these cartels?
No, it's not impossible.
It's not impossible.
It's not.
How difficult is it to be able to stand up to the face? Because look, what are we talking about here? It's people who have circumvented the system and stopped things from flowing, literally, in the way in which they ought to. Right? That is it. There are groups of people who stand. So are we saying they're so heavily connected? They have some kind of backing from higher power. What is it that would say, we're going to cut this cancer out completely and supply to citizens what we should be supplying? Why is it so difficult? Over time, it has become such a monster that even to start to pick at it has become extremely difficult.
Just look at the twist, huh? Water ought to be supplied, all right? It is your duty to supply the water, isn't it? And to make that possibility a reality. And there are things that you must do. But the logic that comes in, are they not getting water? You see, they are now buying water whose source is often suspect. And the cost is infinitely more than if it was supplied by you. But in your mind, they are getting water. So your conscience has been given a balm, so something that can ease it, not necessarily quieten it, but ease it so that, and then with time, it dies. So it stops even being a bother. It doesn't even hit your mind that this is something you ought to do. And that in not doing it, you actually are doing something wrong. It does, in fact, you are then wrong if you point this thing out. That's where, now, that inversion of morality, as our friend Mohammed from Mwakijembe keeps pointing out, that inversion where right has clearly become wrong and wrong has clearly become right, it is a problem. But the real problem is not how to get rid of it. How to get rid of it is known, but the willingness to get rid of it.
The willingness, the full commitment.
Yes.
But also, it's not as easy. I can't imagine that it's just as easy as
it is not.
Come in and say from today
this is going to happen. It won't.
Water will be supplied and
No.
It is not an easy job.
You make the decision, but do you have people within your ranks who can follow through?
Yes.
Because it's what you call a group activity.
Yes.
It can't be the decision maker alone. No. And I think sometimes, don't you get the idea that this is what perhaps plagues the high officers in the land, even the highest? That you may want something done, but the collusion that you require from those who work with you to do it is not forthcoming. So
and you can't just take a broom to this thing and
no.
Why? You can't take a broom to this thing and sweep it all away. Whereas we've seen examples of people who've known that there's some rot happening here. And regardless of who's going to ask you questions tomorrow, you sweep it all away and say, you know what? We can't continue in this manner. Why don't we see that kind of action? Especially when, forever since I've been here, forever it has been an issue with the council, with the county, Nairobi. It has been an issue. The tales have been there for eternity. Why is it so difficult to come in and say, look, this is enough. Sweep out this whole thing. Let's start from the bottom. Why?
Because it's a business.
Yes, and it has money.
It has money.
And a lot of it.
So people who have already entrenched themselves into finding a way of making this money will continue doing so. Remember, it's not just people who are siphoning water from the pipe. Water that's coming from Dakaine or getting to the pipe, supposed to be piped into Nairobi. It's not just that. There are other businesses that have cropped up. People who have sunk their own boreholes and they're selling that water. So there's that. Sunk boreholes, you find bowsers going to certain areas where they're actually taking water and distributing water for sale. Others who have sunk boreholes and then they've come up with water companies, bottling water. So it's a wide business. And that's why I said, we can say everything we want to say about, getting rid of the cartels in the water provision in Nairobi. It's not easy. It's not going to be easy.
By the way, you've actually moved the discussion to a lovely level because it isn't just the county government.
It isn't.
No, it brings in the Ministry of Water. It brings the Ministry of Environment because, you just can't wake up and sink a borehole.
Just sink a borehole like that.
Can't. There are legal implications. So it means, and it is outside the purview of the county government.
Yep.
So who gives this permission? But one of the things, though, that has happened, and this is something I've heard, is that the county government, the NMS, has actually done the very thing we're discussing, but for the benefit of the Wananchi. There are people who have been suffering and paying for water, as I said, whose sources are perhaps a little questionable.
Yeah.
They now have water because boreholes have been sunk by the NMS, and they're making it possible for people to have water.
And water kiosks established.
Yes.
The question that comes to mind, though, is this is not the first time that we're seeing this in Nairobi. A couple of years back, when Charity Ngilu was the Minister for Water, there was an entire project to do the same within Nairobi, working with the local administration to sink boreholes and then put up water kiosks and then let those water kiosks supply water to the local people. You know what I had happened?
No.
That in some areas, for example, there's one of the areas in Pipeline, some residents were saying, it appears there was sabotage. Borehole has been sunk, so borehole is supplying water. People are just coming to the chief's office, chief's camp, and they get the water kiosk, and water is readily available. It's cheap. People went and sabotaged the borehole itself, so it could no longer produce water. So that you go back to buying water from who you were buying from in the first place.
Impunity at work, wouldn't you say?
Completely. And this is happening in a chief's camp. So there's security. But saboteurs have been able to come and sabotage a borehole.
So the same collusion that we were intimating, we were talking about with regards to the county governments, again, we see it at that level also.
Imagine.
It is so entrenched. I mean, there's no break. Starts from the top, it goes right down to whatever level you want to think of. So how do you get rid of that? Remember, we're talking about this delightful plant that is actually now killing flamingos. We spoke about it when it was killing goats and causing malformations. Now you tell me, how do you get rid of such a cancer or such a problem that is really at the heart of our nation?
It's determination. We're waiting for us to be able to link up with Major General Mohammed Badi, the Director General of the Nairobi Metropolitan Services. We're told he was held up in a meeting that has taken a bit longer than it should have. But as he joins us, among the things that you want to hear is, okay, General has been appointed. One of the arguments was that you're bringing in a general who has absolutely no history, no background, no interest in the running of affairs of Nairobi. Okay? So you cannot say that he's somebody who's been compromised in any way before. He did not participate in a political campaign to win the seat. So he does not owe some people some favors. That's one of the problems that you have. You're elected into office, you then come to realize that the person who was really supportive of your campaign, who was giving you all this money so that you can do your job very well, this person is one of the people that you are going out there promising during your campaign period that I'm going to deal with the cartels. Guy comes and tells you now, this one you cannot, you'll be affecting my business. So here you are, you now bring in a man from the military. He comes in, tell him, run, do these 4 functions. Ensure you can deliver as best you can. So he does not have all this baggage. How has he been able now to carry on his function? There's a provision of water. There's the issue of health services. It's a big issue. There's the issue of garbage collection. Garbage collection is a big issue. There's the issue of improving infrastructure. So we've seen, for example, the work that he's done with launching of the Michuki Park. We have seen all that. What other projects have they been able to do? Has there been a conversation, for example, about looking at these heavily congested areas and seeing how can you provide those services better? How can you ensure there's a better road? How can you ensure that there's a properly functioning sewerage system? How can you ensure that there is better functioning water supply to these areas? Is it possible? Is it being done? Is it not being done? How do you now deal with those cartels that have been doing all these things behind everybody's back?
I don't think it can be a negotiation. I honestly don't think so. Look here, everybody knows that cartels run Nairobi. Everybody knows that. It's whether it's unspoken, whether it's out there blatant in the open, everybody knows that it's going on. If there is seriousness that's being applied to this, sure, it's going to be difficult. But like we've said, it's going to require commitment. It's going to require dedication. And look what, it's going to require an iron hand. It really is going to take a decision and say, we cannot have this happening anymore. We know who the individuals are. We know who if you're serious about your job, there's nothing like, it's difficult, it's entrenched, it's tentacled, it's within the system. We're going to find very difficult to be able to cut it out. Well, if you say that, but you don't do anything, then you know what? You shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
You really shouldn't. Because you cannot continue to say, it's entrenched. It's been there for so long. It's from the top to the bottom. Do you want to solve the problem or not? That has to be the question. If you don't want to solve the problem and you're okay with the status quo, continue in the way you are, pussyfooting around issues, shaking hands. You're serious about solving it, you take a knife, you take it to the cancer.
So how do you do that then?
You mean to tell me that we don't know the individuals who run these cartels or the companies who run them? What's wrong with bringing them out into the open? If we're really serious about solving the problem.
And who is it that has complained and brought these matters to the authorities? Because remember...
The residents.
Residents of Nairobi complain they don't have water. Residents of Nairobi complain that they don't have a sewage system.
It shouldn't even be a complaint.
It's clear, it's there, it's open.
You are running this organization, this company. It's a public entity, but it's also privately being run, called the Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company. It knows the number of meters it has. It knows the amount of water it's pumping. And it's looking at the amount of revenue it's raising. It's clear. You can see, I'm supposed to be getting revenue from an area called South B or an area called Buruburu for water. And I'm not getting any revenue. There's no water running through the pipes here. Something has happened. You can clearly see.
Children grew up.
You don't even need to wait for the residents of Buruburu to call in on Spice FM and say, we have cartels here.
Actually, it isn't the residents. When I said, who has brought up the complaint, have they complained?
Who? This resident.
The water and sewage companies, have they complained? Who have they complained to?
The people who are supposed to be supplying water and have not supplied are not the ones to complain.
I'm asking a facetious question for a very simple reason. I know what I'm asking seems like, why on earth are you asking this question? Look, do we have a history of documented complaints that have been brought forth? Do we have documentation of the response that the authorities and the security and the police have given in such matters, or the people concerned? Do we? The reason why, again, I'm bringing this up is this. If you have a situation where everybody who may be involved, from law enforcement to others, And if they have been enticed and induced, and they're also the silent participants in this, then we can continue talking about this, and we can continue seeking to find solutions to this, but we will be chasing our tail, really. That is why. And this is where I was going with it.
Okay. So the Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company should complain that it's not doing its job.
Actually, if I am losing out on money that is owed to me and it's because of some people, surely is this not a matter that I should take up with other authorities? Because clearly I'm being sabotaged. Clearly something wrong is going on.
So complain to who?
The police.
Okay. So we have seen very many times that the Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company has issued statements, has made this kind of sting operations using the police as backup to go and reconnect pipes, to go and find where water has been disconnected and trying to reconnect. Over and over. It's not. We have seen it.
Have they taken these matters to court?
We've seen it. So in terms of whether now they've taken people to court, that's a different conversation. I'm not very sure I can comment on that. But where are we going with this?
You see,
I'm supposed to supply water there. Okay? I have the full mandate under law to supply water. Water is not reaching the intended recipient.
Yes.
So what is the complaint here?
And I probably even know why. And yet, the sting operations, as you call them, they occur from time to time. It's like there's a discomfort from time to time. But is it a concerted effort that you see, and have they gone into the bother and pain of ensuring that they may even have such a department whose job is to ensure that these things don't happen, and it is persistent and is continuous? Do we see it? The answer is no, we do not.
Let's take a break at this point. Hopefully when we come back, Mohammed Badi, the Major General, will be available to talk to us. But we're having a conversation about the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, the work that it's done since it was established, the work that it has done since it took over the 4 functions of the Nairobi City County Government. What is it that it has done? What do you think the NMS has done, and what should it be doing? So we've seen comments, people talking about, ask Major General Badi about water. Ask Major General Badi about a certain school, for example. I've seen Harambee Primary School, 2,000 student population, no running water. What is the solution to this? Let's have that conversation when we come back. We're live on Spice FM, on KTN Home and online. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they're getting per year, how much inconvenience they're causing, as much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a Fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working, and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather.
It's cloudy in Nairobi this morning at 17 degrees. We'll go to highs of 26 today and lows of 15. Chance of rain early in the morning. Looking into Nakuru, or rather Nyeri, let's start off Nyeri. Sunny conditions at 14, highs of 23 and lows of 10. It's partly sunny in Nakuru, 12 degrees at the moment, going to highs of 28 today and back down to a low of 12. It's also 12 in Eldoret, highs of 25 and lows of 11. Partly sunny conditions in Kisumu this morning at 22, the highs of 30 and lows of 15. It's mostly sunny in Kakamega at 17 degrees, highs of 30 and lows of 13. And light rain in Mombasa this morning at 25, highs of 31 and lows of 24. Malindi is following suit with rain this morning at 26. The lows will be 25 and highs of 31. We're looking at highs of 27 in Kampala, currently at 20 and experiencing rain showers this morning. It's also raining in Dar es Salaam at 25. That'll be the low for today, going to highs of 31. Already looking at rains in Johannesburg this morning at 15, highs of 21 and lows of 14, while in Lagos, still hazy and cloudy and foggy this morning at 26, going to highs of 34 and lows of 23. Partly cloudy conditions could give way to rain in Kinshasa. We'll see highs of 32 and lows of 22.
This is the Situation Room The only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
All right, it's looking like quite the
Traffic
this morning, trying to get out into the CBD, not moving as much as you'd like it to. However, it's moving. We have bumper to bumper situation on Kiambu Road expected this morning, and as you get to the Pangani Tunnel, it's also moving quite slow there today. All right, on Gong Road, we do have some traffic as you try to approach the City Mortuary roundabout. Very, very slow as well as you try to get into the CBD. Mombasa Road also a parking lot right around Siokimau there at the SGR, moving towards the airport turnoff. So everywhere you look this morning, it looks like it's slowed down quite a bit. It's Monday morning. Everybody's trying to get about their business. You know, want to be careful even as you do this. Remember, you can talk to us on Spice FM KE on Twitter. Text us on 40127. It looks like Monday morning is not moving. Let's try to get it doing just that.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's 7:30. This is Kenya's from the Situation Room, broadcasting on Spice FM on KTN Home, online www.spicefm.co.ke and Spice FM KE on YouTube, on Facebook and Twitter. When you talk about now the way we're discussing water cartels derailing the government agenda of supplying water to the people. Not just government agenda, duty of supplying water to the residents of Nairobi. It's not just in Nairobi. Somebody's talking about Nakuru, where the Nakuru Water and Sewerage Company, this person claims they have locked themselves up in the office since last year. They're just sending us hefty bills.
Wow.
Actually, what does that mean? Because that statement clearly requires interpretation.
Yeah. But many other questions that would come in about, Nairobi. If you look at the management of Nairobi affairs, from the days it was a council, then it was a commission, then now it came back to a council, then now county, now it's NMS. And NMS is not just Nairobi, it's Nairobi Metropolitan, which goes beyond just the Nairobi County into some parts of other counties that are still considered within Nairobi. But majorly for Nairobi, because of the four functions of Nairobi City County, what is it that the NMS is doing that would be different from what the county government was doing before? Remember, we've had two county governments in Nairobi, the Kidero one, the Sonko one. Now we have NMS that has taken over some of these functions because obviously the governor at that point felt that some of these functions we really can't do. We need support from the national government. Justified?
Need support? Yes, I think to some levels, yes. To some levels whereby you say you need some help, because if you look at historically, things have been a shambles. Historically, you've not been able to do it. So what do you normally have as a solution where things have not been working over time? You need an injection of assistance. You need somebody who's either coming in to take over, somebody who's coming in to assist, or somebody who's coming in to advise. And this is very clear what was needed here. And even if your problem is corruption and impunity and thievery and just a daylight robbery when it comes to how things are being done within the county, then perhaps the injection that you need is one who is going to come in and clear out the rot. Whether it's 4 functions or 1 or 3 or 10. That you need somebody who's going to come and sort out that issue, because it is the bane of the existence of that county. You need something to come in and sort it out. You need some help. That's what you put in. Right. You need somebody who's going to come in and restore law and order. Do it. Justified, absolutely, because on your own, you've not been able to do it. You've been unable to do it. And it's from one administration to the next. Whether you see that somebody has come in and has just been complacent in terms of how things have been running, or somebody who's come in and has become part of the system. Whichever way you choose to look at it, help is needed. Help is that we're going to come and hold your hand, right, or help that we're going to come and clear you out of that place because whatever you're doing is child's play. You've been joking around.
Help was offered. Remember, there was the formation of the Nairobi County Regeneration Committee, which brought in the city county government and the national government officials, right? Najib Balala was chairing this, they were sitting and talking about, so what is it that we can do? Let's work on recarpeting some of the Nairobi roads.
Yeah.
Let's work on then what can we do to regenerate Nairobi?
And how did that work out?
So now you tell me. It's national government and county government. If none of them were able to do it, how can you then say transfer powers or functions from one to the other?
So now,
if partners have been unable to do it, why say that one of the partners will be able to do it by themselves?
That's why you had the introduction of something like this, what you see
The
now,
NMS.
the NMS operating.
Which is now not even working with Balala and that committee. Forget. Bring a general.
Yeah, bring somebody who's independent. And how has that worked out? Look at the many examples of where you see the people who are, when you have two people who are not able to sort something out, do you bring in somebody who is affiliated with one of them, or do you bring in somebody who is absolutely independent? They've been given a job to do. Their job is to come and get it done and either then move out or then your terms of service are prolonged. You bring in somebody who's independent, who has no affiliations whatsoever with any side. Get it done. And that's what you need. You need somebody who's going to be strong. You need somebody who's going to be powerful in terms of mind and action. That's what you need. You don't need partners. No, it's not going to work. We're going to come and do some hand holding, tea party drinking. It doesn't add any value. It doesn't bring any help. It doesn't bring any assistance. And it's clear that everybody knows what the problems have been. Why not just sort it out once and for all, for goodness sake? Why not? We've been dancing around this issue. You know what the problem is? No, fix it.
You know, one of the things that we're talking about water, many of the comments are coming in, it's with regards to water. Water is a big problem in Nairobi. So you say, immediately the NMS took over, for some number of weeks, there was water flowing in the taps of several estates. Not all, by all means, but several estates that had not seen water started experiencing some, water flowing through the taps. But we're back to that point where there's still no water. People are asking themselves, so how do we get water? People in high-rise estates, heavily congested, and they are asking themselves, where do we get water from? They buy water from Kokoteni vendors. These Kokoteni vendors, you ask them, where do you get the water? They'll tell you, tunanunua huko juu wewe usijali. Wewe chukua maji ama utaki, I take to somebody else. How do you, as the government, sit back and watch as this happens? And what do you do to stop that from continuing to happen? Okay, so you are NMS, you are looking at it, you're dealing with it. What do you need to do?
You know what? It sounds like it sounds really simple and basic when you're saying this is what needs to happen. But in my mind, you need to cut off the blood supply to these folks who are stealing from the county. That's what you need to do. That's what you really need to do if we're going to be honest.
See, the problem is...
It could be very difficult and so complicated because there's so many levels to this corruption. There's so many levels to this thievery. Well, start from somewhere.
You know, every time we talk about this, something really... Well, something comes to mind. You see, we talk about stealing from the perspective that it is a bad thing. Something that ought not to be done. That is something that's even criminal. But the unfortunate thing is that with inverse morality, many people who perpetrate what we consider to be wrong or ill don't see it in that light. So what I find interesting is, how do you get someone to see that what they're doing is wrong?
Stop them from doing it and bring about repercussions so that you understand. Oh, hold on. Look, let's just even pretend that these folks who are doing this thing don't know. Okay? Yes, pretend.
They don't know what they're doing is wrong.
Let's give them a childlike
personality. They do know what they're doing.
Let's
may
give them
be
a childlike
wrong by others, but they consider it to be okay.
You don't know what you're doing is wrong. Now let me tell you that it is wrong. And the way in which I'm going to tell you that it's wrong is that I'm going to cut off your power and stop you from being able to do this thing, so that you get it.
Perhaps I need to explain. It's not that I don't think it's not that they don't know perhaps that it is illegal. It is just that they have accepted a certain alternate morality. And because, as you correctly put it, there is nothing to deter them from continuing with it, they continue.
Yeah, so now put in that deterrent. And that's what I'm saying. This acceptance over time cannot continually be an excuse. When we come into the office and Eric comes and he's now sitting in this position of director, we have to school him on the operations of things in this. We say
it's called induction.
We induct you into this, and we say this is how. No. And that's what I'm saying. It's about time folks stood up and said no. No, this is not the way it's supposed to be done. It doesn't matter how long it has been, 100 years, that this is the way in which we operate. You are Jew, he'll come down at a Jew. No, stop it. And that's what I'm saying. We have to be able to get to that place whereby you say wrong behavior needs to be called out as just that, wrong behavior. There's cartels. Stop it. This thing is eating at the very heart of the operations of a country. Can you imagine a government for a capital city in a country that's supposed to be the big brother of the region operating like this? Just that alone, operating like this. There's garbage everywhere. Water doesn't flow in the taps. Potholes all over the place. It's crazy. And then what are we saying? Cartels run the show, and, that's just the way it has been. And, we'll try and sort it out, but we'll recarpet this road. It's not a lackadaisical approach to how things should be done. No, it's not an excuse, and it cannot continue to be one unless, of course, that's how you want things to operate. Then by all means, apply that attitude. You want it to run properly? Get a knife to the cancer. Cut it out. And that's what I'm saying. And people can. People just don't want to enough.
That's where the problem is. So I'm looking at there are several websites. There's namsip.go.ke, and this is the Nairobi Metropolitan Services Improvement Project. And from the website, they say they have 32 road construction projects ongoing, 6 commuter rail stations, 3 sewage and stormwater projects, right? 7 ongoing market projects, 9 disaster and emergency preparedness projects, 3 integrated urban water development projects. Okay, so projects that are ongoing. And they'll even talk about things like balloting for 1.4 billion shillings tolls. Nairobi County, this market commences. There's a new fire station. This is on Kangundo Road. New fire station built in Kangundo Road. So this is like among the first times that you're seeing a fire station outside the CBD in Nairobi with over 100 years. Nairobi is over 100 years old, more than 110 years old.
To be precise.
Right? And this is among the first times that you're seeing, there's now a fire station that is not in the CBD. So when you're calling for fire services, they don't have to come from fire station.
Given the population and given
Nairobi.
the vastness of Nairobi,
Yeah.
there shouldn't just be 2. There should have been several.
Should be more, right?
Yes.
There's more markets that have been opened. Now it's about expanding those markets. More new market in Gong, new market in Westlands, new market in other parts. So we are seeing more and more markets coming up. When it comes to those basics of sanitation services, garbage collection, seeing the Dandora dam site and what's happening to it, all those are things that would tie into the bigger picture of how Nairobi is running. Then you look at what the general has been able to do in the last 1 year and see, okay, so the general has come in, this is what he has been able to achieve, 3, 4, 5, 6. They've said that they're going to launch these new 4 healthcare facilities in Nairobi this week or in the next coming days. There will be more health facilities that will be launched. If you look at what does the county government of Nairobi have to do with education, there is the early childhood. So how many early childhood centers do we have? Is that a function that the Nairobi Metropolitan has taken up, not on education, but on infrastructure? What is it that's being done? So I want to ask the question before I ask the audience on 0719-012-600 to you, City Muga. When you think back at what the NMS has done, just not from going to read about them, but just interaction with the information of Nairobi Metropolitan Services in the last 1 year, do you feel that they have had an impact or not?
Yes, they have.
And what impact is that, positive or negative?
Very positive. In fact, it's not what I think. It is what I have heard from people who have benefited from those services. And they tell you this was our situation, and now this is the situation.
Okay.
Okay.
Give an example.
An example is water. I gave this before, and I'm going to give it again. That the Nairobi Metropolitan Services seems to have ensured that in places where water was a problem, boreholes have been sunk, and we said it earlier, water is now available. In the public domain, we're talking about the health centers. this is of interest.
I'm going to ask you to be a bit more specific, because it was when you say in places where water was a problem, what boreholes have been sunk and now water is available. That's, I think, very broad, and there are people who are complaining they don't have water. So those that have told you, in which areas of Nairobi are they telling you, we do not have water, now there's a borehole we have access to?
It's not that they didn't have water, but the services were not regular and it was expensive. It's water that was being sold to them.
Okay.
There's a friend of mine who lives in Kangemi area, all right? And he is the one who actually brought my attention to this, and he was talking. He's a gentleman who plies a taxi service. And he was explaining and saying, to be honest, things are a bit different. And he explained why they were different. And he was giving me details of how water that previously was a problem in the area that he lives in, and now it wasn't a problem because of what had been done by the NMS. Okay? Now, the issue of the expansion of the health services or health facilities, that's in the public domain. This is not even something that I need to go into details of. But why, for me, that seems to be peculiar in a very positive way, is that for the longest time, one doesn't hear of whether it's the national government or the city government building new health facilities. But it doesn't stop there. One doesn't even hear them building new schools. So when you hear of new structures being put up, in the past you'd hear of plans too.
Right.
You may even be lucky enough to hear of it having been started. But of it being built completely to the point where they are being inaugurated, that's a rarity. Yes. It shouldn't be, but it is a rarity.
Ndu, how do you rate NMS?
I would say that how I would rate them is that initially coming out and starting off, a horse rather out of the blocks really quickly. And it seems that there would have been something that they could do. However, in terms of sustainability, there could have been some blocks along the way that then stopped them from doing it. But in terms of the rate, I think what I would rate them on is the ability to prove that something could at least be done. And so I would say, yes, the impact has been felt. Because if anything, they've been able to show, the NMS as a service has been able to show, whether it's a show on leadership, has been able to show that something can actually be done. So I would say good in terms of impact. Now, in terms of sustainability and dragging that out, to say that the things that you've initiated then have some level of permanency, then maybe there is a little bit wanting. To show that things can actually be done. And I think that was a good thing, because everybody's been deceived to believe that things can never flow or run in Nairobi because of 1, 2, 3. He's been able to show it can actually happen. Now, in terms of making it permanent, in terms of making it sustainable, I think that is where the challenge lies. But it can be done. And I think that is the thing, to make people understand and realize that these things can be done. It's possible to weed out this rot. It's possible to cut it out. It's possible to have things operating in the manner in which they are supposed to, without living under this lie that things can actually happen because the cartel weed is so
they've
thick.
given you renewed hope. Huh?
Yeah.
That it's possible.
Not even renewed hope.
That it's possible.
It's possible.
Okay. How is this different from what we see when a new administration has come in? So when Dr. Evans Kidero took over in Nairobi, a number of things started happening. Talk about harmonization or improvement of revenue collection and coming up with revenue collection programs. When Mike Mbuvi Sonko came in, he talked about the same thing. Oh, you know how much the Kidero government was collecting per day? This is now how much you're collecting per day. Much more. And then you see the launching of several projects here and there. When you talk about the recarpeting of some parts of pavements in some parts of the CBD, did Kidero do that? Yes, he also did have some pavement project. Did Sonko do some paving project? Yes, he also did some paving project. Just that theirs were not colored. Okay, maybe that's something to talk about. Was there issue of provision of water running in some taps for some time? Yes, there was. Is there an issue of water running in some taps for some time under NMS? Yes, there is. It's a sustaining of it. I think for me, one of the big things that I would say, oh yeah, now I can tick and say complete and done, is when they launch those health facilities. They've talked about 17 new health facilities that are going to be constructed, equipped, and personnel deployed within a year. When those ones happen, I'll be like, I'll tick. Until then, we are building, finish. Then let's talk. I'm at that point where I'm a skeptic. I'm sitting back and I'm thinking, is there a difference between if the people of Nairobi had made a good choice and elected a governor that then would have the kind of support that is required, would we have needed to have NMS? Has NMS come in and shown that this is a difference? I'm at that point where I'm wondering, okay, so what is it? And I'd like you to join the conversation and tell us 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. How would you rate the Nairobi Metropolitan Service so far? How would you rate the Nairobi Metropolitan Service so far? They've done quite a bit. Give it to them. They've come in, they've done quite a bit of work. There's some work that is ongoing, others that are complete. How would you rate them? 0719-012-600. Several comments coming in. For example, Ms. Madai says,
Okay, so Ms. Mathai said it's difficult to weed out water cartels because in most cases water vendors are county officials. Conflict of interest is evident as the same people who were supposed to facilitate service delivery, create a water shortage and then sell water to the public. Samuel Eru says, we're not angry enough to cut this nonsense out once and for all. Or is it that we don't know how to? And that's the question that is being asked. Coming out of Nakuru, Boit Barsite says, Nakuru Water and Sewerage Company have locked themselves in the office since last year. Customers aren't allowed in, but they bomb us with extremely high bills, 3 to 4 times our usual amount. Sadly, that's nowhere. There's nowhere for us to complain. I mean, so something going on in Nakuru akin to what's going on in Nairobi. Becky says, where does one go to complain and get a record of their complaint? That it is actually recorded. You go to the water office and they are just eating mandasi with no one to help you.
Water office in Nairobi. So you want to complain now, you want to find out where. Let's hear from Saidi, who's calling in from Mombasa. Saidi.
Yes, Baba.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Very well, thank you, and thank you for calling in.
The problem, my sister there have just spoken a good point.
Mm-hmm.
That when there is a cancer, it's a knife, cut it off. Because these people telling us that the states are behind the water supply in Nairobi.
Yeah.
And we have a government here and they know the cartels.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't they just do away with these goons so that there must be something called water flowing straight in Nairobi? Because these people are paying taxes.
Mm-hmm.
We are paying taxes, not use water. Because these people walking around with this, you see this tank called supplying of clean water.
Yep.
This water belongs to this cartel.
Yep.
And the government is just watching them.
The
only thing is that we should recycle these garbages. The problem with my government is one that we are seeing these people and you don't do anything. The government is asleep while they are seeing these people. Their mind, I don't know. When I just wish I was the president of this country.
Saidi, let me ask you, from your observation, the NMS has come in, has taken over some 4 functions of the Nairobi City County.
Correct.
How would you rate them? From 1 to 10, 1 being absolutely horrible and 10 being excellent.
Let me just tell you, brother, these are the most corrupt people in this country. Those people, like in Mombasa, can you imagine this?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we are using maji ambayo tumechimba visima. That's what we are using here. And the county government is here.
That's true. Thank you very much, Saidi.
Every month.
Asante sana, Saidi.
It's okay, ladies.
Asante. Johanna says the Nairobi problems are 1, former mayors, 2, former councillors, 3, former governors.
And the list goes on.
It's just the list goes on and on and on. It's all former this, former the other, former this, former the other. Unfortunately, we've been unable to get in touch with Intended guest for this morning, Major General Mohammed Abdallah Badi, who is the Director General of the Nairobi Metropolitan Services. Got held up in the meeting. But let's take a break on KTN Home at 5 minutes to 8. We shall continue the conversation. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM. Nyeri.
All right, so we continue the conversation right here. The affairs of the Nairobi City County Government, what's happening in Nairobi. We are asking, so how would you rate the NMS 1 year since, about a year, it's not yet a complete year, since coming in and taking over some of those functions of the City County of Nairobi, the appointment of Major General Mohammed Badi as the Director General of the NMS, the work that they've done. They launched a couple of projects. So even the President coming along with them, water projects in some areas, lighting projects in some others, roads in some parts of the city. People who, like City, you've been told by a friend, saying now we at least have access to water. Hitherto we didn't have access to this water. I mean, it's just very expensive water. Now water is cheaper.
You know, there's a thinking among people who document our histories, and with reference to war. And it has been clear that during times of difficulties, there are people who fare better than others. Hence the term a wartime general. Meaning, there are generals who do very well during war, there are generals who do very well during peace times. And if you mix the two and you put a general who is good and who functions best when there's peace in terms of war, then you may not achieve your desired results. The Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, has been referred to in such terms. Meaning, given the situations that Germany has faced with COVID and everything else, she was the right person, of the right frame of mind, and the right attitude, almost right everything.
Everything.
Yes. She was able to deal with these problems in ways that somebody else who didn't have her background and where she had come from would have. They would not have looked at this problem in the same way. Now, in the same way, I think General Badi falls in that category. Somebody who has a military background, whether you join the military when you're young, 18, just the end of your adolescence. So this is someone who's been schooled in a certain way of looking at things and doing things. And remember, our president is the commander-in-chief. The thing about any discipline service is that they obey orders. You're told something, you do. You're given a task, you understand it, you carry it out. Because can you imagine if, for instance, you're in an army that was a debating society, would you ever win any war or even fight? You give it to people and say, hold on. Which country? No. Why don't we attack the other one? This one doesn't seem...
This one,
yes. By the time you arrive at a consensus, the consensus will be, let's discuss this tomorrow. And the problem just escalates. So in many ways, it isn't the first time that the entity that we considered to be either a county government or a city government or a town government has had issues. And so that the national government has had to intervene. No. In the times when we had municipalities, it happened not fairly often, but it happened. When they would disband the council. And the local authorities would appoint someone to oversee the services of that particular town. Why? Because the political administration had proved conclusively that they were unable to run the affairs of that particular entity. Yes. It happened to Kisumu, it happened to Nairobi, it happened to Mombasa.
Okay, so we'll continue the conversation about the feelings of the Nairobi residents about the performance of the NMS later on. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. In the next hour, let's cross over to Baringo County, Turkana County, those neighboring counties. What's happening in Kapedo? Insecurity flares up again in the name of cattle rustling, in the name of very many other things. But what is the root cause of the Kapedo conflict year in, year out? And how can this be resolved once and for all? Is government operation of deploying armed security officers who are going to disarm people who are heavily armed the solution? Is peace talks the solution? Have all those been tried before? Why are they not working? Let's have that talk in the next hour. Good morning. It's 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, Mombasa Road traffic. Folks are trying to get off of Mombasa Road into the city centre this morning. Ooh, looks quite manic today, guys. It's moving very, very slowly. Bumper to bumper situation all the way from the Weybridge at Mlolongo. Some folks want to use Outer Ring. You can use Outer Ring and then get on the Eastern Bypass if you're trying to get into the city, or snake your way along until you get to the junction for the Southern Bypass and use that option to get into the city. Okay, so that's an option. Coming in from Thika Road this morning also is very slow getting into the CBD. Wangari Maathai Road always offers up those positive vibes in the morning. You can try that one also to get into the city, but it's Monday morning. It's drizzling in some parts. It looks like we're going to be in traffic for some time. Let's keep it here and see how we can get through this one. Help where you can. Spice FMKE on Twitter. Talk to us there. If you find a good route where no one is, let us know. Also via text 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
FM on KTN Home and online. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. We begin every hour with the day's proverb.
The opportunity given to a monkey to wear clothes does not guarantee it joining the dining table.
The opportunity given
to a monkey
to wear clothes does not what?
Yes, it doesn't translate into the monkey now joining the dining table. Again, the issue of monkeys and clothes being human clothes, a human perspective.
Okay. It's a human proverb.
If you ask the monkey, I'm sure the monkey will tell you who told you I wanted these clothes in the first place. I'm okay the way I am. But then you've given me these clothes, so you expect me to emulate your behavior.
Yeah, so I should
become like you.
Should become like you in every other way. Okay. So let's talk about Kapedo. We have seen the flaring of insecurity in Kapedo once again. So far, security officers have been deployed there. There's a joint multidisciplinary operation that brings in the GSU, the Rapid Deployment Unit, the Anti-Stock Theft Police Unit, and others who are in the area. And they're trying to pursue the people who are armed and in an operation to pacify the region. So far, 10 people have died, among them 4 security officers. Local leaders have been doing what local politicians normally do, and they come up with statement after statement. Oh, this has been incited by the other side. This is the work of our political detractors from the other side. This is the work of other people who are sponsoring criminal elements on the other side, and those ones need to be arrested. And we have seen now leaders being told, come on, hold the peace. The Rift Valley Regional Commissioner, George Natembea, is the man on the ground and is the man who's coordinating bringing peace to the area. But whenever you hear about Kapedo, it comes up the same way. You ask yourself, what is the root cause of the problems in Kapedo? What is the way to lasting solution in Kapedo? Bona George Natembea, the RC for Rift Valley, joins us now on the line. Let's have a conversation with him. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Salama kabisa, and thank you very much for joining us. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
Right. So let's just start with that background, Bonarsi. What is the problem in Kapedo? It is not the first time. This is not the first year. It's not even the 5th year that we hear of insecurity around that region.
That's very true. The problem in Kapedo has been perennial.
Yep.
Of course, initially it was just ordinary stock theft that people used to regard it as cultural. It used to happen at specific times, especially around December. And therefore, young men were looking for animals to pay dowry and that kind of stuff. But the problem has now metamorphosed into something different. It's become commercial and it's being controlled by cartels who are providing firearms and ammunition to local people who go and raid their neighbors. And the animals who raided find their way into markets. In fact, our conservative estimates that almost 70% of all the meat consumed in Nakuru and Nairobi is from stolen livestock. So the problem currently is basically commercial.
But by the time we have criminal elements actually getting themselves so organized to get access to firearms, to arm people, and then the vehicle, the cattle that is stolen find its way into the market, 70% of meat consumed in Nakuru and Nairobi, that's a very high number, Bonarsi. Yeah. Where are the security forces in this?
As I said, this thing is a cartel. And the cartel involves some of us, of course, because they have to bring on board. Anybody who may prove by an impediment to the business is either killed or compromised. That's why by law, you're not supposed to transport livestock from 6 in the evening. But most of the animals slaughtered at Eldoret and the meat taken to Burma is transported at night. Yeah. There was a this in Kamkunji where Burma is, and we tried to stop this. It was impossible. So it's a cartel. It's like mafia. And then number 2, as you correctly put, the government went to sleep at some point. And therefore, a culture of impunity developed in that area. You remember around 2014, 21 officers were killed in cold blood in that area. In Barazo, another 42 were killed. What were the response of government? We did nothing. In fact, the worst bit is that you find a commission of police. After such an incident, it transfers all his officers. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't go after criminals. He removes his officers from there because removing them from danger. Then what happens with the local people there? So a culture of impunity has developed over the years where criminals believe that everybody's game, whether you are an ordinary man, a baby, a woman, a security officer.
Bonarsi, these individuals are in government, as you've said. Those who have an opportunity to do something, who have an opportunity to do something about it, but essentially are turning a blind eye. So it looks very bad if the citizens look up to security agencies whose responsibility essentially is to take care of them, but are turning a blind eye in terms of any action that should be taken when their lives come under threat. It seems like a very gloomy outlook when it then comes to the security situation in the country. How then are citizens then supposed to feel? How do we know then that people will be protected? The people who live in this area of Kapedo, for example, how do they feel? How would they have any kind of security in their minds and also physically that something will be done about what's facing them?
We've not turned a blind eye. I spend almost 80% of my time in this Rift Valley. The problems facing the North Rift. And the challenges we have there is that you give me a djembe to go and dig, then you tie my hands. And they are saying, work, work, work. It's almost unlawful today as we speak for us even to carry out forceful disarmament because of issues of human rights. So basically, the world is encouraging the voluntary surrender of firearms. They may have worked in other countries, and maybe the same is being imposed on Kenya to do likewise. But in this region, when you go to talk peace, in fact, what I've realized, you go there and have peace meetings. When you leave, people will be attacked. by this criminal just to prove that that was nothing.
Right.
But having peace meeting is a demonstration of weakness. That's why it does not work. In fact, since 1984, when the forceful disarmament was done in West Pokot, where even the military was involved, we've not done anything thereafter. Every time we try even a bit of, we're just using some little force, it's politicized to make a lot of noise. Women have been raped. Things are stage managed to make fun houses are being burned. I think that the policemen are the ones who are doing this. And somehow it just stopped. But this time around, we believe we are going to do a thorough job. We are doing it very slowly. We are not in a hurry. Because the issue expected that we'll be there for 1 week. Then, of course, whatever they've been doing, you kill 2-3 policemen, then we coil our tails and run. But this time around, we are there for the long haul, and we believe we are going to solve this problem.
The problems.
But you know, when I hear you say this, Bonarsi, I feel that as long as you're not going for the head of this snake, whatever you're doing with the tail, trying to chop it off in small bits, will still not do much. Because like you said, these are powerful people who are able to arm locals, people who are able then to get these animals into the market, to get them supplied through the market, make so much money out of it. These people have power and influence. At what point do we go for those?
We're going for them. We've started with associates. As you can see, some of them have already recorded statements. The obvious ones, the ones that, the tip of the iceberg, the one that you see. But they are linked to others, the big ones who are operating beneath the water. Likely we have got sufficient intelligence on these people. But the weakest link in the criminal justice system, of course, normally is the court. The threshold for proving cases sometimes is too high. And these guys are not stupid. They don't leave any footprints. And the way cartels operate, sometimes they don't know each other in the chain. But we have got sufficient reason to believe that some of our leaders are directly involved in this thing. And that's why whenever we start doing this kind of work, we hear them calling press conferences and making all sorts of allegations. Previously, the government has been hearing them. I'm sure by now we'll have been told, don't do this. And then you'll see also have been withdrawn. But for now, we want to get to the bottom of this. And as I said the other day, we are going to expose these people at some point. If they don't do what we've asked them to do. Of course, I know exposing them may not be sufficient. We need to expose them and actually take them to court. Otherwise, we'll just go to mere allegations. But knowing what we have as intelligence, I would strongly believe that those characters you see running around the shooters are not the problem. The problem are those who are behind those characters. Again, there are some leaders who procure firearms themselves. It's not like they just give them money to go to procure firearms. They go to those places. Some of them, you look at that travel histories that they to Garissa. When somebody from Kapete go to Garissa 5 times in a month and there's got no meeting there. He has got no appointment to go to meet the governor or his fellow MCA there. But you find 5 times going to Garissa. Do what there? So they believe that to get firearms from Uganda. But again, I was starting to get an indication that some of these firearms come as far as Garissa. So the leaders are involved. They're not providing leadership. They're providing confusion in that area. And they believe that as long as you arm your people and they're always fighting, and you stand yourself as their leaders, their protector, you are assured of getting votes. So in that kind of circumstance now, somebody like me has come from us, I'm there. I need support of these people. They're not providing this support. You go to a place like West Pokot, for instance. The governor of West Pokot has been on the forefront in terms of assisting us get to the solution of this problem. And now we've got a semblance of peace between Turkana and West Pokot. Turkana South and West Pokot, we have got some semblance of peace. And even our relationship with Uganda on the other side is quite good. But in this Kapedo area, the leaders are the problem, because they're even pushing the narrative of marginalization and creating unnecessary sense of siege amongst the people. This was the first time where I participated in an operation where you send officers and actually the citizens stage a fight back, a serious gunfight. They're fighting officers, and they're fighting like military units.
Yeah.
You remember, these people have been recruited in the forces over time during the Kano era. Many of them were recruited in the forces. They went with the police. Some of them have retired, some of them resigned. And you go fight with these people, you're just basically fighting against yourself because they're trained as our officers. So the problem is a bit bigger than what Kenyans are perceiving it.
Let me ask this question, Bonatembea. I am CT Muga. You've mentioned this problem of cattle rustling, but is this the only problem that region has?
The problem is the resource is cattle, and people are fighting over cattle. So you get a firearm and you go and raid neighboring communities, and somehow you raid 500 heads of cattle and they just disappear. But they are transported somewhere else. Some of the officers on the road were supposed to enforce some of these regulations, like do not transport animals in the evening. Down the road, there, and somebody has made a budget for them, so they will not arrest anybody. So the problem is a very, very, very big one. But we believe that once we sort out the problem of illicit firearms in that area, we'll be about 80% done with the problem, so that we move to the next level where now we want to address issues of infrastructure, have proper roads network there, have proper schools, have water. Most of the water that is consumed in a place like Kapedo comes from Margaret. There's no water there. And even the issues of the we don't have sufficient number of schools. Children must walk long distances to go to school. There are no boarding schools there. So we have got a problem that we need to address. Immediate one is about sorting out the issue of security. Then going forward, how do we bring now the entire area into the Kenyan community, because they feel like that. That's allowed.
The reason why I asked this question, Bonanatembea, is this. When there's the sort of chaos that we now witness in that area, and if I am to go by what you've mentioned, that they probably are people who are behind it, there are people who benefit from this chaos. And I'm asking myself, yes, cattle is a resource, but are there natural resources in that region as well?
There are. And there's a lot of potential underground. And that's why we believe that even those who are fueling some of these disputes have got an eye on those resources. Because some are saying we've got a boundary dispute between Turkana East and Baringo East, but I don't believe that's true. Because you go to our maps, all the maps, they indicate clearly where Kapedo is. And nobody has given condition that we cannot share those resources as communities in that area. So it's not an issue of the boundary. And as a matter of fact, we have got people who have moved from Baringo, moved over 100 kilometers inside Turkana, and have changed the Turkanas from there. They're claiming to be part of Baringo. Why is someone so interested in expanding the boundaries of Baringo County into Turkana County? And that area again has got lush pasture. There is water, things that are good for livestock farming. But we believe these resources, given a proper conducive environment, they can be shared. You don't have to shed blood. You don't have to put someone else from that area so you can benefit.
There are those who actually have this view that the problems didn't begin recently, because there was a time in our history. Maybe two presidents prior to this one, one president prior to this one, when that area had several chiefs. Like you'd find a chief in this and Kapedo. It's like there's Kapedo in Turkana, there's Kapedo in Baringo, there's Kapedo, and they even had chiefs and assistant chiefs. So when you have this sort of situation, it isn't something that has generally developed naturally. It's something that has been created.
In Kapedo, administratively, there's no ambiguity. Administratively, I know as a regional commissioner with 14 counties, I know where the boundaries for all my 14 counties are. And I know that the person who's responsible for Kapedo, who reports on Kapedo, is the county commissioner for Turkana, and the deputy county commissioner, the DC, for Turkana East, who's based in Lokori. I also have DCCs in Baringo, one in Ginyang, another one in Tangulu Bay, who border that particular area. But when you commit a crime and get away with it and you benefit, you develop that culture of impunity. Because after the killing of those officers, I think it was in 2014, things just went south because we did nothing about it. And then we sent officers there without very, very clear what we're supposed to be doing. This idea called changeover, you'll go there for 6 months, then now you leave, another team comes. You don't have to do anything. Just go there and mark time. And as long as you are not killed. So you go there and develop some kind of arrangement with the bandits that no, will not touch you and also don't touch us. Where in the world do we operate like that?
Absolutely.
So that's what we are saying now. The rule of law must be enforced, and we want this human rights people also go slow on this thing because every life matters. When a cop is killed, like those who are killed, I'm not letting anybody talk about it. But when a bandit is shot dead, you think the world is ending.
But you've said you're very resolute about saying that this time around things are not going to go as they had before. That this time something will be done about it. And I mean, I believe you when I hear you say it. But it would also seem as if that you would need support right across board. Is that support available to you, Bwana? And can you feel that, okay, yes, I know that something needs to be done about this as yourself, as George Natembeya, but do you have the support of other people who would be critical in making sure that this stops and that whatever historical resource issues are there will be sorted out? Do you have that support? Because you need it.
Personally, I'm very, very reluctant to get the local support because it's not the honest support. People will come on board and the only agenda will be to frustrate and sabotage the exercise. They'll come and tell you, let's give us 2 weeks, we'll bring the firearms. Then after 2 weeks, they say we are still talking. Give us another 2 weeks, then another week, and then it will be 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, and the thing just fizzles out. That's what I've been doing. They'll come with very good intentions, but I don't think there is any leader in that area as we speak now who is interested in peace, because they continue being leaders. The fact that they're out there to support those bandits because they call the shots, and any leader who appears to be preaching peace, immediately you'll get an opponent who is a more warlord coming up and taking all the support. So they're all checking each other and see who is a more warlord, and some of them come to government cleverly just to come to government so that they can know what plans the government has. They don't come there with good intentions. So personally, I'm very we are going to use now the hardware this time around and see how far we go. If they feel at some point they want to come on board, they'll come on our terms. But we're not going to agree with them as equals now. We're regarding them, all of them, as suspects. And I'm saying this is one year of contradiction.
Bwana Natembeya, every time we have a conversation with you, it's refreshing to hear a public officer speaking as resolutely as you do. I look back, though, at all the conflicts that we have, not just in Kapedo, in Baragoi, but even in other parts. Now we have issues in Isiolo. I know it's not your region, but it's in the country. And every time we hear people saying political influence is at play here. There are people who have got political power that are involved in this, but we never see them taken to court. How can you assure the people of Kapedo that this time round, I, as George Natembeya, am going to make sure that the head of this hydra is killed?
The head is going to be slain. No doubt about it. We've got a very, very structured plan. We want to turn Kapedo upside down. Of course, those characters know that there are some places which are completely inaccessible, and sometimes they hold advantage over us. Over years, they have created a lot of fear in our police officers because they've been killing them like rats. Let me just be blunt. And that's why our officers have been relying on or carrying out these operations using these armored personnel carriers. They won't leave those armored personnel carriers. But we've now moved beyond that. We want to go the infant way, and where they are, we are going to go there. they see us, we are also going to see them. Of course, the problem with the political leadership in this country, people don't seek for political positions to serve the people. They don't realize that leadership is actually in the muzigo. You have to carry people's burdens. They look at it as a stage of self-actualization.
Yep.
Where you go there and be very comfortable, and you are served, they are calling Mheshimiwa, and roads are open for you, you are saluted everywhere. And it doesn't really matter what's happening on that common man down there. For me, I look at it the other way around. That leadership is about carrying other people's burdens. That put yourself in the shoes of that old woman who is now running around in Kapedo because bullets are flying all over the place. And feel that as a leader you are responsible. But for them, when such things happen now, they say that Nathaniel is responsible for this. I'm not causing mayhem. I just want to restore law and order in that place. And we've not done a proper operation since 1984 when one was carried out in West Pokot. We've been doing it in small doses. We start, and then politicians come in, then we stop. It's like somebody sick, they're given a full dose of malaria. Then after 2 or 3 days, they feel good and they stop. They stop taking the medication. What happens now? They develop resistance. Next time, if you give the same medication, it may not work.
Yeah.
This time, you are saying people are going to get a full dose. Let's say at the end of this treatment, this is going to how that area is going to look like.
Okay.
And the area has got a lot of potential. We just have to get this missing link called security. So that our campaign will just grow naturally.
Thank you very much, Bwana George Natembeya, Rift Valley Regional Commissioner, and all the work that you and your officers are doing on the ground. We wish you all the best.
Thank you, Eric.
Asante sana. 27 minutes after 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, live on KTN Home, on Spice FM, and online. Let's take a break. Let's see what's happening on the roads and the weather, and then we resume the conversation. We are discussing the insecurity in Kapedo. What is it? Where is the lasting solution? Good morning.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources? Yet we have real challenges in this country.
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Okay, still cloudy. Nairobi at 17. We'll see highs of 26 today, coming down to lows of 15 and a chance of rain in some parts of the city. It's sunny in Nyeri, however, at 14, highs of 23 and lows of 10. 12 degrees and partly sunny in Nakuru, highs of 28. 25 the high in Eldoret, sunny at 12. Partly sunny conditions in Kisumu at 22 now that the rain has stopped, at least for now. 30 the high and lows of 19. It's mostly sunny in Kakamega at 17 degrees, highs of 30 and lows of 13. 24 will be the low in Mombasa, where it's still raining this morning at 25. We're looking at light rain in Malindi at 26, highs of 31 and lows of 25. Rain showers in Kampala continue at 20, highs of 27. It also continues to rain in Dar es Salaam at 25. We're looking at highs of 31. It's also raining in Johannesburg at 15, highs of 21 and lows of 14. Lagos is still foggy at 26, highs of 34 and lows of 23. And partly cloudy conditions in Kinshasa at 24, with highs of 32 and lows of 22.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
All right, so there's still massive traffic on Mombasa Road this morning from Syokimau all the way to General Motors. After there, though, it continues at the next Gen Mall and all the way through past Capital Center out then towards the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. Very, very slow this morning, guys. This is the construction. It's going to be this way for some time. So I think it's best we just know in our heads that Mombasa Road is not going to be a pretty picture, at least for a few months. Also the same, we're looking at Uhuru Highway heading into Westlands. Very slow as well. Some of the roads some of the lanes were closed off this weekend. So coming out and into Westlands is going to be a difficult one, at least for the foreseeable future. Coming off of Thika Road into the CBD as well, that's slow. Right around the Pangani Tunnel, coming out of Kiambu Road, this one, just use Wangari Maathai Road if you can. Okay, let's see what it looks like in about half hour. So we're right in the middle of traffic hour. Let's see how we get out. Spice of MKE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Okay.
94.4
Conversation
Spice
continues.
FM.
We are discussing the insecurity in Kapedo. Just off the conversation with the Rift Valley Regional Commissioner George Natembeya, who says, well, look at it this way. 70% or thereabouts of the meat consumed in Nakuru and Nairobi is coming from this region around Baringo, southern Turkana, Kapedo. So much of the violence that we see, according to him, is also fueled by this commercial interest. So commercial cartels come in, they buy firearms, they arm the youth with firearms, they take advantage of these traditions that are there among the community. But they're the ones who off-take the cattle that is stolen. They're the ones who find this cattle traveling all the way to the slaughterhouses in Nakuru, in Nairobi, for local consumption. So these guys are basically making money out of stolen cattle. And there's nothing much that has been done to them because these are people with political influence, with political power. But this time round, George Natembeya says, watakipata chamtemakuni. Let's hear from Felix Odhiambo, who calls in from Ugenya and says he'd like to participate in this conversation. Felix, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Okay.
I think to begin with, Bwana Natembeya, I'd like to tell him that if you are a politician, I wouldn't need to vote for him. He has a sweet tongue. Because to begin with, he admits that 70% of meat that we consume in Nakuru and Nairobi comes from this cattle rustling business.
Yeah.
They know the politicians are involved. They also are aware that this meat arrives at night. So he says that it's not a business that operates during daytime, it operates during nighttime. So what are the measures that they are placing into this meat from reaching Nairobi over the night? Because knowing it comes in during the night means that you already know the place, the time, and the modality of which this meat is actually traveling to Nakuru. Why can't they place in appropriate measures to stop this meat from reaching our market? Second of all, the root cause of this kind of conflict in Rift Valley, culture, issues to do with the inheritance, issues to do with there are some communities which are actually I've done peace and conflict. There are communities whereby parents or the fathers are teaching their sons how to make guns. Okay. So it's not about small arms proliferation whereby they're just buying guns from outside. There are communities whereby children are being taught how to make guns and to use it. Apart from this operation of confiscating these small arms, what is Natembeya doing to stop this cultural practice of children being taught how to make guns and use guns afterwards? Because if you do not stop this culture as well, the problem will continue. And the government also
want
needs
to ask a question out of
community.
ignorance here. Do you know for a fact that there are communities where children are actually being taught how to manufacture or to make guns?
This is something we were taught in class. And I'm actually planning to write a thesis on the same because it's one of the, when it comes to operations whereby the government confiscates guns, or the community returns guns to the hands of the government, the police, during operation, you still find that after a short while, the community still goes on and you still find some more guns. But when you look at the guns, they are not guns that have actually been bought from somewhere. They are actually crafted. So meaning that the community has as well learned the knowledge of how to make these guns. And this knowledge is being passed from father to son and from father to son.
I want to tap into your knowledge again, Felix. Tell me, which communities do we see such practices? Go ahead, please.
Mainly in class, what we were told was that in Turkana, Samburu, and Pokot communities. the cultural practice of the parents or of the father is that when they actually teach their sons this kind of practice. There are sections of the community with the knowledge, whereby the knowledge is being passed on. You see, and when this happens, it doesn't matter whether the guns are coming from outside or from elsewhere. The community itself has the knowledge of how to fabricate these weapons. Yes.
So you say you were taught this in class?
Yes.
What class? What were you studying then, if we may ask?
Peace and conflict management at master's level.
Okay. So was there any corroboration of information coming in from various sources saying, indeed, this is what is happening, for example, and it's rampant in this way? Or was it anecdotal?
It was an anecdotal kind of information, and we were told actually that we can actually look at that when we are writing our thesis to see whether it's also one of the issues that is propelling this gun violence within pastoralist communities. But when you again go further, the structural conflict that has been inflicted in these communities, you look that some areas are more developed, but these communities have resisted knowledge and development. Yet they are one of the poorest regions in this country. So when such a community, you don't have resources and you need to marry, like the cultural practice of issuing cattle, dowry. You don't have the cattle, you need to give dowry so that you can marry. It forces the community to go into such kind of, the boy child to find cattle rustling as one of the lucrative kind of businesses that they can engage in. So if we can tackle structural violence in this area, we bring education, we bring development, roads, everything. You see, these things give the community a source of livelihood whereby they don't need to rely on rustling.
Meaning they have to be provided with a substitute for what it is that they have culturally believed in for the longest time.
Exactly. They need an alternative source of livelihood.
All right.
Because if the boy child has been brought to believe that the only way to make wealth is to raid cattle and such work, you need another alternative for the community, whereby the parents and the community will see that, okay, if I take my child to this school, if they are taught, and then there's this employment opportunity, they'll make some income. So they in that kind of like at the moment the government ignores
Felix, I think we have a problem now with your line, but thank you very much for your contribution and thank you for sharing what you've shared this morning. Let's now bring in one of the local leaders in this area, and this is Tiaty MP William Kamket, who joins us on the line now. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Good morning.
And thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Asante.
Now, Kamket, you are one of the leaders in the area, Tiaty MP. Recently, you were, let's just put it this way, you were called in by the police for 1 or 2 words and then you were let go. We were having a conversation in the past 30 minutes with the Rift Valley Regional Commissioner George Natembeya, who tells us that there is the cultural societal issue and then there is the manufactured conflict about boundary on where Kapedo lies, and then there's the other bit, which is commercial crime, basically. People stealing cows so that they can go and sell them to the market for money. And he says many of the local leaders, those who have influence, including political leaders, have a role to play in this. What do you say to that?
First of all, as I speak to you this morning, I am still in mourning because we have lost too many people in the last 1 week, both security and civilians. So I am deeply, deeply affected by this problem. And apart from the loss of lives, we have our people also whose only source of livelihood, their livestock, were killed deliberately by police. And then we have a lot of displacement in terms of people who have had to run away, mostly innocent women and children and business people who have been profiled and targeted people have moved away. The entire economy of the large Anginyang area is collapsed. Chemolingot, which is our biggest, the headquarters of our Tiati West Sub-County, today in Ginyang Market, which is Chemolingot is a ghost town now. There are no schools which are open in that region at all, not a single one of them. Or even if they are open, but there are no children. Today is Ginyang Market, one of the biggest markets. I think it's the second largest livestock market in the country. And I have called this morning. I'm told there is no market today. If you go to Ginyang on a normal Monday, you'll find about average 3,000 goats being sold, and more than 400 cows per week. So our whole economy is collapsed. Now, onto the matter of criminality, there's a matter under investigation. I was called, yes, but I was not called. I was arrested like a tag. But that I leave that to the police. It's their tactics. Yeah. I don't approve of them. It's their tactics, but so I cannot say much on the matters under investigation. But what I can say is that yes, it is true. There is a criminal element of killings and that kind of stuff. And then there is, the traditional cat rustling is no more. But we have criminals who have commercialized this matter. And there are some mistakes that the state makes to assume that we, as the elected leaders of that region, are in any way connected to those criminals. It is a fallacy, and it's no one is safe from those criminals. We have records of chiefs and their assistant chiefs who have been killed or who have injuries as we speak, trying to follow up and try to recover stolen livestock.
Mheshimiwa, if I can come in and ask you a question here. I mean, I'm hearing what you're saying, talking about it's a fallacy to think that local leaders would be involved in this. Why then do you think that local leaders would be then amongst the first suspects on the side of the security agencies, just as we've heard from the Rift Valley Commissioner this morning? Why would they bring that in as an element? Why would they then go in and arrest? Why would they do that?
Let me put it this way. It is the easiest thing to do. It is the easiest thing to do, to try. There is this thing about the Interior, Ministry of Interior. There's something called escapism, escaping from the reality. Okay, and trying to it is always the easiest thing to try and blame leaders, because in any granted, the buck stops here. I'm the leader for Tiati. That is true. I'm supposed to be responsible and what. But what's my role? What is the role of a member of parliament? Clearly, but the easiest thing is to try and blame leaders. What are you doing? What have you done? But if you go deeply into the matter, this is a historical issue, and we have to go back to the sessional paper number 10 of 1966 that said that let us develop the highlands where there is quicker returns. You remember that? Now, if you want to go to Lokori Lodwa from Nakuru, the shortest route is to go through Ginyang, Chemolingot, Kapedo, Lokori, then Lodwa. The route from Nakuru to Mau Summit, Eldoret, Kitale, Kapenguria, if you from people of Kenya National Highways Authority, they tell us that if you do this route through Kapedo, you cut off about 160 kilometers. This is the shortest route. But why isn't this route being done? Because This is a dry land. There is no agriculture or something like that because of Section Paper Number 10 that developed the highlands. So you have to go all round Kitale. But if this road, and I want to give you the example of the road from Isiolo, Moyale, Marsabit, Moyale. That road completely changed that region. Now, we have been crying to the state, including my Turkana brother, can we do this road from Nakuru, Chemolingot, Kapedo, Lokori, Lodwa? That way, you will open up that region completely. And you will open the region. Kapedo is just a tiny fraction of that land. It's a whole huge tract of land that is useless. It has become the Wild West of these gangsters because of absence of government.
I hear what you're saying, Bonakapket, and yes, you're talking about marginalization and underdevelopment of the region. However, how do you then bring those two in the year 2021 to the cause of the recent attacks, cattle rustling in the area between one community that is living in the same marginalized area with another community that's living in that marginalized area? How do you bring the two and say it's because of underdevelopment, of marginalization, that this community attacked the other community and killed them and stole their cows?
Eric Latif, I went to school with you. And these things I'm telling you, I used to tell you when we were in school together.
Yep.
Okay. Now, this matter, you're lucky, my friend, my brother, that you live in Nairobi. How many police stations are in Nairobi?
Quite a number.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Now, listen. How many schools are in Nairobi? How many facilities are in Nairobi and in the neighborhood? In Kajiado, in Kiambu, in
Machakos.
Now listen, Tiati constituency is 5,000 square kilometers. Do you understand? 5,000 square kilometers, and 5,000 square kilometers with two police stations. The first police station, the second police station was just done recently. It's not even fully. It's not even worth calling a police station.
So it's a police post.
Yes. 2. This is 5,000 square kilometers of land, and it's not just land. The population of Tiati from the last census was 200 and something thousand people. Okay. So really, what? So we have a situation of complete absence of law enforcement agencies in a very large population, and then 2, we have that larger region from Pokot, Tiati, East Pokot towards West Pokot, Sigor, parts of Sigor constituency, and now extending to Turkana, okay, all the way up to Samburu. That whole region has not had any serious presence of government. So much so that now, these are people who keep livestock, okay? You must understand. People, or maybe you have a farm. If somebody extends a beacon from your farm, okay, you have time to go and report to whoever
local chief,
police or whoever,
and then have dispute resolution.
And you can have that matter resolved, okay, because the land does not move. Just the beacon which was moved. But this is livestock which has legs; they move. These people have no education. They have no land to see. But they have nothing else apart from this.
Well, let me just pause you there. I'm not hearing you answer the question.
I'm not justifying anything. You must get me right. I'm not justifying anything. I'm just saying, you must understand the situation, the reality.
I'm trying to do that, and that's why I'm asking, with all that reality on the ground, you yourself have said that, yes, you agree there is criminal elements who've taken up this whole business of cattle rustling.
Yes.
And they've taken advantage of various factors, including the marginalization and the development of the area, including the cultural practices of the communities that live there. So from the criminal side of things, which is where we find people being killed, where we find your local constituents have been killed, where police officers and chiefs are getting killed, how would you explain that? That it is allowed to happen year in, year out. This is not the first time. We're talking about 2013, Capedo. Now it's Capedo. We had the other areas. How would you explain this thing happening over and over and over again?
How would you explain the continued marginalization over and over again?
Mheshimiwa, there's something I'd like to ask you here.
I'm bringing the question back to you.
Right.
Yes.
What is there anything that has been done to improve the lives of those people?
You tell me. You are the MP now. You are the county speaker before this. So with the onset of devolution, with the government now, you sit in parliament. What has happened to redress what happened in the session of paper number 10?
The constituency, which is 5,000 square kilometers, I have 100 million for CDF. Just like Westlands constituency, we share the same 100 million for CDF.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
But what's the population of Westlands, Mheshimiwa?
But Westlands belongs to all Kenyans.
You see, what you're saying makes perfect sense, Mheshimiwa.
There is skewed allocation of resources.
Mm-hmm. So what have the local leaders? What have the local leaders done over time? So now we have a county government in Baringo.
Let me tell you.
We have a county government in Baringo, a county government in Turkana, a county government in West Pokot, a county government in even Elgeyo Marakwet. We have members of parliament, members of senate who are senior party leaders, who are senators, who are leaders from this region. What have the local leaders done to address
Let me
these
speak
issues?
for myself. I do not know about the other leadership. Let me speak for myself. I was elected in 2017.
Yep.
From 2017 up to now, if you look at my records from the CDF office, we have done already 8 secondary schools. We are doing, through help by Kenya Pipeline Corporation now, we are doing the first high school in Silale ward, the first high school, a whole ward, worth 10 million. For the last several years, there has been no high school. Silale ward alone does not even have a church. There is no single church in Silale. So we are in those 3 or 4 years now. I've been as MP. We've done 8 secondary schools. We've done several primary schools in terms of improvement of classes and new ones and establishing new ones. I'm doing the first medical training college in Chemolingo. First ever medical training college in Chemolingo.
Mheshimiwa, I can understand that you're talking about the development agenda and how that has changed. However, there are criminal aspects if I may ask, that are going on right now.
Who is this lady who speaks when I'm speaking? Why are you speaking when I'm speaking?
But I'm asking a question. I'm asking a question because we're clear about what it is that is happening in terms of development in your area. That we're very clear about. But at the same time, there are criminal aspects that are also going on at the same time. Are you saying that this criminality is happening as a result of marginalization? That's why it's going on? Is that why this is happening?
I am saying, you know, let me tell you, my dear sister, I don't know your name.
My name is Ndu. My name is Ndu.
Undu.
Yes.
Let me tell you, my sister. Criminality thrives on 2 things. One, rate of success of the criminal act, and 2, impunity. Okay? When a criminal decides to commit a crime and succeeds, 2, and then there is impunity. There is not apprehended. It gives the others impetus to go and commit the same crime. That has been the problem. And that's why I was asking, why is it that we are so under-policed? Why? Why is it that we are so... Actually, that in terms of criminality, why is it that we are so under-policed? Why? That is the question.
Okay.
Because now, I was asking how many police stations are in Nairobi. You told me there are quite many. How many are in Tiati? 2. Tiati is 5,000 square kilometers. And the next constituency, which is Turkana East, I don't know how big it is. You can Google. It's the same. My brother, MP for Turkana, is as frustrated as I am. Okay? Even the member for parliament for Samburu North, who is my neighbor, is as frustrated as I am. So we have this whole area that is has a complete absence of state machinery, and so both hard state machinery and soft state machinery in terms of policing and in terms of also road network. Okay, you can't go to any of those places because of poor road network. The little money we get from Kera, we get 20 million per year. So for routine maintenance of the normal roads between Jemolingot, Tangul Bay, Kolowa, but the whole area, there is no money to do roads in those places. Two, even the watering area. Now, as we speak, people are fighting over the waters of Suguta River, which is the only permanent source of water at Kapedo. Now, that is one of the biggest problems as we speak now. The Pokot bring their livestock there. Security forces come and they don't want the Pokot to bring their livestock there because they think they are a threat. It becomes it's an annual vicious.
It becomes
circle.
a vicious circus.
Yes. So instead of now saying, let us do more pandams, let us spread this livestock, let us spread these people, where is that money? I have been talking to the PS for water came to Chemolingot last week before these skirmishes came. I requested for pandams. Luckily, he gave us 2. But we need, if he had the money, I do not know, but if he would have given me more than 20. Okay? Because that is what we need. It's a dry season now. So
a lot needs to be done to basically change the fortunes and the livelihoods of the people around there.
Marshall Plan. That place, in my view, and my views are out there, it needs a serious, deliberate, sustained Marshall Plan over a long period of time to ensure, number one, to ensure that the road network is expanded. 2, build schools, enough boarding schools, not just schools. 3, I said about the road network, and then the water, and then the policing.
We'll follow up on that. I want to thank you very much, William Kamket, for speaking to us.
Unless that is done, we will always be hearing these stories, unfortunately. And on the small matter of boundaries, I want to say this, that if Mr. Natembeya was honest enough, in the handing over notes that he got from his predecessor, he should go back and look at the boundary matter of Kapedo. It's not a big deal as such. For me, as Kamket, I don't care where Kapedo lies. What I want is peaceful coexistence of the people. If the government is feeling shy to determine the boundary of Kapedo, fine. As long as that place is developed, we will live together with our brothers at Turkana and other neighbors.
William Kamket.
Development of that area.
Thank you very much. We've run out of time, and thank you very much for speaking to us today. We'll speak to you again as this matter unfolds and see what needs to be done, what needs to be addressed in the area. William Kamket is the MP for Tiati constituency. Thank you very much for speaking to us, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Asante sana. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. We want to say thank you and goodbye to our audience on KTN Home who've been with us since 7 o'clock, coming up to now 9 o'clock. In the next hour, we finally have gotten Major General Mohammed Badi, the Director General of the Nairobi Metropolitan Service. We'll be having the conversation with him in the next hour to find out what the NMS is doing, what they've been able to achieve, the current challenges that they are facing, and also to engage you as well so that you can ask him a couple of questions of areas of concern for you. Major General Mohammed Hussein Badi with us in the next hour. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Our audience on KTN Home. See you again tomorrow. Keep it right here.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM, Nyeri.
Yep, so it's coming up in the next hour. This is the Situation Room. We have Mohammed Badi, Major General Mohammed Badi, the Director General of the Nairobi Metropolitan Service. We had this conversation in the 7 o'clock hour. What is it that the NMS has done? What does it need to do? What areas does it need to focus on? Keep it right here. We'll have that in the next hour. It's now 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so if you're on any of these roads today, Thika Road, Mombasa Road, coming off from Gong Road, Jogo Road, this is where the drama is as you're trying to get into the CBD. It's very slow this morning, bumper to bumper in many cases. But yes, this is what we are faced with. Still in traffic hour on this Monday morning. It seems like we woke up with a bang and things are not as smooth as we'd like them to be. However, it just means that it's going to take some time before we're able to get out of this one. All right. So as we then get into the CBD coming out of Westlands, coming out of Gong Road, it's going to take some time to get out of this one, but we need some patience. All right. We'll see what it looks like in about half hour or so. You can talk to us on Spice FM KE on Twitter or text on 40127. Let us know what's going on in your neck of the woods, but still a mess in many cases. We got to keep it patient, at least for now.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start.
Continue right here on Spice FM and online, Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and www.spicefm.co.ke. Let's begin the hour with today's proverb, CT.
The opportunity given to a monkey to wear clothes does not guarantee it joining the dining table.
The opportunity given to a monkey to wear clothes does not in any way guarantee
it joining the dining table.
Okay. Sawa. Very many ways of talking of. So let's now bring in the conversation about the Nairobi Metropolitan Services back on the table. And we were discussing it in the 7 o'clock hour. The NMS, much of the work that it's done, much of the questions and comments that are coming in from social media and on calls, especially with regards to provision of basic services like water and sanitation, provision of healthcare. So we know that the NMS currently has been working on coming up with new health facilities in Nairobi. A number of them are reportedly going to be launched this week, and then others are going to be launched in coming days. Water. NMS came in. You say you have been told by people on the ground who have witnessed the drilling of boreholes,
the benefits
and
of it,
provision of water now, and they have better access to water. Others are still complaining about water cartels that are just running affairs in the city of Nairobi. But let's bring in the boss, Major General Mohammed Badi Abdallah. He's the Director General of the Nairobi Metropolitan Services. Thank you very much for joining us, Jemedari, and good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation.
It's unfortunate that we were not able to talk to you earlier, but we have you now and we are glad.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's just begin with the work that you've done so far. Since you took over as the Director General of the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, the work that you've done, if you can just give us a brief for people who have not felt NMS maybe, what have you been doing for the last couple of months?
Well, since we started, that is around mid-March last year, we were given the 4 functions that were transferred to us as NMS, and that is transport, services and public works, environment, energy, water and sanitation, lands and physical planning, housing and urban development, and lastly, health. So in all these functions, in terms of transport services, since we took over, we started off first by repairing all the roads within CBD, and they were in dire state in some areas. Some areas they were okay, but we still recapited to ensure that the proper work is done, including the drainages in all the major roads, and creation of NMT, non-motorable transport. That is the walkways and cycle paths around CBD, and we are now going to continue out of CBD into different estates. So as far as roads are concerned, we have been able to repair all the major roads within CBD, have recapited them, and we are even going into inner lanes now to complete CBD, and we should be moving out of CBD end of this month towards other areas. But that doesn't mean that the affected areas like industrial areas and upmarket of Nairobi, we have been continuing because some of the roads in those areas, for example, Lavington and other areas, Westlands have been in dire state. So we have come to first aid of these roads and be able to repair them up to acceptable standards. In terms of NMTs, I think anybody walking within CBD will be able to notice the non-motorized transport corridors that we have created. We are now moving, like for example, Kenyatta Avenue, we have moved out of CBD and have reached the Hurlingham roundabout. We are continuing on Jogo Road and some other areas. We are now starting to go westlands in terms of NMT. So those are transport services. Apart from that, you know our motto to decongest the city. We are now building Matatu or PSV terminals around the city. We have started at Green Park, which is almost complete and should be officially opened in February. It will cater for the Gong Road and some of the Mombasa Road PSV. But we are creating another bus terminal on Workshop Road, joining Bunyala Road, that will mainly cater for Mombasa Road traffic. We have another one at Landis Road, Park Road, Desai Park. We'll have one at Mudhurwa and another one at Westland. Hopefully, all these bus terminals will be where PSVs will end their journeys and go back from where they came from. To connect these bus terminals to CBD center, we have BRT lanes where the buses will be ferrying people from those bus terminals to CBD. And if it's nearby, then there are walkways which a person can walk from the bus terminus into CBD. So those are developments we are doing in terms of roads. In conjunction with the road, we are repairing all the street lights. We have been able to repair almost 50,000 street lights, some replacing them and some repairing. So we do hope that with the modern street lights, we'll be able to light up Nairobi city as it should be. We are changing into the smart light system, where some of the street lights will be coupled with cameras in terms of protection and security. And in some areas like public spaces in parks like Uhuru Park, Michuki Park, the same street lights will also have Wi-Fi where people can connect and enjoy when they are in the green spaces. So these are part of the transport services and electricity that are ongoing. In terms of public works, we are in the process of renovating and repair 8 markets where we'll put them into the proper standards with abolition, parking spaces, and modern stalls. So the works have already started. There is one that was done by national government, but we are working with them, and that is City Park Market, which had stalled, and it is soon going to be opened. In terms of environment, we started from day one into garbage collection, but this is an area that involves heavy transport. Unfortunately, when we took over, most of the county transport in terms of environment, the lorries were dead. They were hiring private collectors to do it, and it was quite expensive. So when we started, we had a memorandum of understanding with NYS, who quickly came into our aid by providing their lorries and their staff to supervise collection of garbage. So we did quite a lot. We managed to cover some of the garbages in some areas that they were not collected for over 7 months. We managed to bridge that gap. Recently, we have advertised for some areas within CBD for private companies to aid NMS in collection of the garbage. We are already issuing out tenders. We will reach out to the 17 sub-counties within Nairobi County to ensure that garbage is collected effectively. We managed to recover some of the lorries for environment and other uses by rehabilitating the county workshop, where effectively we were able to repair 83 vehicles, including ambulances, fire vehicles, and garbage collection vehicles within a period of 2 months, and they are now all serviceable and working around the city. So we are still continuing with garbage collection. The task is huge. Nairobi produces over 3 tons of garbage daily. We are working round the clock to ensure that we effectively keep the city clean. And we have done a lot in that end, but still we have to hire private garbage trucks in order to be completely efficient.
General, if you don't mind, let us just be discussing them as you go ahead and tell us the work that you've done sector per sector. Now, in the area of environment, and you said a lot of work that you're already doing, and you came in and you found a situation where county trucks were in a deplorable condition. NYS came in. Now you've issued some tenders for PPPs within the CBD. Are you keen on the specifications of the garbage trucks? Because one of the complaints that you'll hear people having is that, yes, the county has signed up contracts with private companies to do garbage collection, but then those private companies bring in the oldest of trucks onto the road and they just collect garbage, not specific garbage collection trucks. Do you have those specifications this time?
Yes, specifically during this tender, we had evaluation team going around to to evaluate some of these companies. Most of them have tippers and hire local staff for collection of garbage, not specifically garbage trucks. We ourselves, other county, are the ones that are specifically going for garbage trucks. We have repaired the ones at the county workshop, and we are ordering a few more specifically for garbage collection. In fact, these are the new modern ones that compact the garbage by pressing it so that it becomes solid at a go once compressed. So they'll be able to carry more and be more effective. In terms of private, most of the companies that are available around do not have specific garbage trucks, but use tippers and other lorries. So long as the garbage is collected and ferried to Dandora dumping site, it is okay for us for the moment, because the reach of having companies specifically for environment, I think, is difficult. And the ones that are around are usually hired within the estate that we have for their private collective. So yes, the trucks that have been hired are not specifically for environmental uses. They compromise by using tippers and other lorries, but we have to use them at the moment because of the amount of garbage that is generated daily. If we keep on looking for the companies that have specifically compact environmental trucks, then it will be difficult to find.
Are there, General, I have to ask you, some of the problems that we've seen or some of the things that have been said, is that there's control of some of these processes. The word cartels have come up over and over again as the reasons why perhaps smooth operations have not been able to happen. Are you experiencing these challenges? Are there other bodies that are involved in these processes that then stop a flow smooth of operations? Or is it just the numbers, huge numbers that you're talking about that may not allow things work so smoothly?
Yes, I cannot rule out the cartels because the system which was employed before, the checks and balances in terms of ensuring that all garbage is collected was being neglected. Second, the way cartels operate is they would collect garbage in a certain area, go to Dandora site, then claim the amount of garbage in terms of weight more than the amount they have carried. So they used to cheat and had various ways of cheating by placing stones on the lorry, then filling it with garbage, so that when it goes to the weight machine, it appears as if those specific lorries had extra in terms of tonnage than the amount that they actually carry. So this would mean that they get paid more.
Yeah.
So that's how cartels operated. Not really that they were not collecting garbage, but they used to claim more than what they really collected.
And do you have would you say that you have a handle on this now? Do you know who used to operate like this? Do you know who they are? And are you able to say, look, let's cut this thing off at the source and get to the point whereby we're delivering services within Nairobi in the way in which it's supposed to be? Do you have a handle on these fellows now?
We do. First, we ensured that all the existing contracts were cancelled. And then we went to advertise, inspected the various companies, and now have set up measures where a car going in to dump in Dandora is weighed, and when going out, it's also weighed and inspected. So we have security officers left in Dandora site that manage the weight system and the inspection of those garbage lorries. That way to ensure transparency in the amount of garbage that is dumped. So we have just started the new contracts with various farms, and we are yet to experience any hurdles.
Well, talking of transportation, General,
yes.
I was recently informed by someone I know who lives in the Ngumo and the larger Golf Course area about a proliferation of car washes and other structures which may not necessarily meet the stipulations of what we consider to be legal. And they say they're all over the place, including near primary schools. Now, this is not probably the only area that have had such issues, but what is the NMS doing about illegal structures and structures that perhaps have met the complaints of the residents of these of the areas within the county?
Remember that in terms of trade, that's not a transfer function to us. It's still with the county. They issue license to various operators like car washers, kiosks, and etc. Now, ours is to ensure that our enforcement that we have taken over strictly goes by the rule. Yes, the car washes are too many, not only in Gumo, but even in posh areas like Bodaiga and Lavington and Karen and some other areas, which they should not be. Remember that these car washes were actually licensed by various MCAs who represent their wards. So this is political. Those are probably their boys who voted them in, and in order to please them, they give them licenses to do such things. So we are fighting twofold. One is to ensure that the rule of law is applied to everywhere. But in order to enforce, remember that we also have a challenge because these people are licensed by politicians. They control the county assembly. They set bylaws which allow some of these operators to operate illegally, knowingly that they are doing wrong. So it's a major challenge, but we are trying to get rid one in one estate and another. Hopefully, we'll be able, once we have an agreement with the county assembly, to get rid of all of them. But it's not an easy task. Remember that they have been set, not all of them, but majority of them, by the same politicians, and you expect them to vote in the assembly to say no. That I leave it to you to imagine.
That actually brings us now to the wider conversation about dealing with cartels. When we were having this conversation earlier, we were looking at, so General has come in, you do not have the baggage of the politics, you do not have the baggage of having operated in Nairobi as an administrator before, you're coming in, look at things how they should be, and ensuring that they run as they should. However, the reality will be that you will find systems that have been tweaked and corrupted to work in specific ways, and that's where now cartels come in. Just give us your experience of dealing with cartels and how the kind of pushback you get and the kind of order and command as a general that you have issued.
Remember, cartels are just human beings like me and you.
Yep.
But they operate under some sort of influence, either political influence or financial influence. They usually bribe their way through to get specific tenders to do showbiz jobs. One way of ensuring that the cartels, you get rid of them, is by having solid institutions in place and ensuring that the laws set by these institutions are abided. For example, the water cartel, which is a menace around the city.
Yep.
We, with Ministry of Water, recently registered all water bowsers and exhausters. It's funny that even the exhausters, nobody knew the number that were around the city until and when we went public and demanded that all of them get registered. Otherwise, they will lose their license to operate either exhausters or water bowsers. We had a number of them registered. We now know who operates from where. Within that registration, it was a must for you to indicate the place where you draw your water and the areas which you supply. That way, we'll be able to know where they collect their water. Before, they used to take the same city water free of charge and then sell it to common management. But now with the registration, we know because they have to indicate their source of water. And if it's within the Nairobi water, then they are charged daily for the amount that they collect. The Ministry of Water is now developing an app where you will be able to order for this water bowser, just like Uber. Once you set that you need within your specific area, it will show you the amount of water bowsers that are around that area, where they collected the collection point in order to ensure safety of that water, and the amount they have paid for that volume which they have filled the water bowser.
That's interesting.
And it will also indicate to you the amount that they should sell to you. So there will not be this conning that you have seen going around. You will be ensured of the source of water, and you can query through Ministry of Water whether that water is safe.
Okay.
So that's one way of ensuring that we bring back sense into that area. It's not been easy, but we are getting there.
Getting there. Can I ask, though, then for many people the question is, if there is water that then can be gotten by these water bowsers, then this water can also be supplied to homes, because it is these families and individuals, not just businesses, who would essentially be applying for this water. So if that water is available, what's the problem in having this water supplied to residents of Nairobi? There are some taps that are still dry.
No, there is no problem, and that's why we want them registered, so that rather than operating haphazardly, there'll be a unique and standard way of ordering this water should you need it in a home.
Okay, so in terms of getting water running in the taps of homes, and I must say that yes, for the first time in very many years, we saw water coming out of the taps in some areas like South B, South C. This happened. So we know that it's possible to happen. How much further or how much more can it be so that areas that had perennial water issues, went through the whole rationing and things like that, and even other upcoming areas within the NMS will have water in their taps and don't have to go through this back-breaking exercise of ordering water to then be pumped in? Is it possible to be done?
Yes, it's very much possible. Remember that since the early 70s, the water infrastructure in terms of pipes, their repair, the water flow into the city was established then in 70, upgraded early 80s, and since then nothing has been done about it. The population of Nairobi has been increasing since then. Up to now, we are reaching almost 5 million. Mm-hmm. There is an acute shortage to what these water pipes can carry and what Nairobi requires. Mm-hmm. Currently, all the pipes connected to Nairobi can only supply 525,000 cubic meters in terms of water daily. Nairobi needs over 800,000 cubic meters per day to satisfy every home. So there's already a shortage of almost 300,000 cubic meters per day. And that's why you see the water rationing in order to ensure that all the areas get water. Remember, the main focus first is CBD gets water almost every day without any interruption. Areas of hostels and other needy places must also get water throughout. So the amount that is left to distribute into every area, that's why you see some areas getting water once per week, other areas getting twice. So we need to improve the current infrastructure in order to cater for what Nairobi needs now and what will be required by Nairobi 5 or 10 years to come. But that's not an easy exercise. We have to replace all the pipes. Some of these pipes are very old and even leaky. So we are doing damage repair now by repairing all the current pipes. But with the help of World Bank, who have accepted to redo our water infrastructure, we hope we'll be able to cater for what shortages we are currently experiencing. But Ministry of Water and Athi Water, they are already putting up a new corridor we call the Northern Sector Water Corridor, which will increase the water supply by almost 150 to 180,000 cubic meters per day. And if the pipes from the current Kinduruma are expanded to cater for a bigger water volume, we'll be able to reduce this gap and the water rationing will end.
The conversation
but
around...
that will take almost a year or more to repair all those pipes.
This conversation around water, as you may understand, General Skov, of course, it's a conversation that needs to take place over and over again. Let's take a break at this point, allow you to have a glass of water as we take a look at traffic and the weather. We are having a conversation with Major General Mohammed Badi. He is the Director General of the Nairobi Metropolitan Services. Let's take a break, see what's happening, and then come back. And we'll also be sampling some of the questions that we've been posting on our social media handles. This is Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you home nice and chill.
The weather with Spice FM.
Partly cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. We're still at 17 degrees and likely to build up to 26. Lows then today of 15. Let's look into Nyeri, where at 17 degrees it's mostly cloudy. Highs of 23 and lows of 10. And high chance of rain as well. Partly sunny conditions in Nakuru at 19, going to highs of 28 and lows of 12. We're looking at mostly cloudy conditions in Eldoret at 16, going to highs of 24 and lows of 11. It's partly sunny in Kisumu at 20, highs of 30 and lows of 19. 13 will be the low in Kakamega, partly sunny conditions at 20, going to highs of 30. 31 the high in Mombasa today. Light rain at 28 at the moment. 27 is what it is in Malindi currently, and it's also raining, highs of 31 and lows of 25. Rain showers also in Kampala at 21, highs of 27, lows of 19. We're looking at rain also in Dar es Salaam, going to highs of 31 and lows of 25 today. It's still raining in Johannesburg and temperatures lowering a little bit, 14 degrees now. Highs of 21 and lows of 15. Cloudy conditions in Lagos at 24, highs of 34 and lows of 23. Mostly cloudy in Kinshasa this morning at 24, going to highs of 32 and lows of 23. It's now 0 in Beijing and it's still snowing. We'll see highs of 3 and lows of -8. 2 degrees and cloudy in Paris, highs of 7 and lows of 0. It's 0 in London. 0 will be the low, highs of 5. And now cloudy conditions in New York coming into Monday morning, -2, going to highs of 5. And lows of -1.
Chilled Spice. Traffic.
Okay, so let's look further up Mombasa Road today, and there is a blockage right at Mtutende, and that's heading on Mombasa Road. Now, we're not quite sure what the cause is, but then now we see it. There's an accident that has taken place there, so any incoming traffic is locked completely. Also, the traffic on Thika Road past Muthaiga is very bad. Not coming into the CBD without too much of a headache, and it's quite some this morning. The traffic situation seems to be everywhere in Nairobi today. Mombasa Road, it's still at the next gen and heading into the CBD. Very, very slow today. We are looking at traffic everywhere you look, but hopefully it will open up in a short while. Won't you talk to us on Spice FM KE on Twitter? Text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Next 7 minutes to 10, the conversation continues right here in the Situation Room. In the room, we have CT Muga, Ndu Oko. I'm Eric Latif. And joining us for the conversation this hour is Major General Mohammed Badi Abdallah. He is the Director General of the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, telling us the work that the NMS has done since taking over some of the functions of the Nairobi City County Government. A lot of it has happened in terms of transport infrastructure side, in terms of provision of services like garbage collection. We're talking about water as we were going into the break. And the General was telling us about the work that's being done by the NMS, by the Ministry of Water. Now there's support from the World Bank on increasing the capacity of supply of water to Nairobi City County. As we have these conversations, General, we are still seeing many questions that are coming in on social media. People raising concerns about, for example, yes, the old dilapidated pipes and then mixing of drinking water with sewer. Mixing of drinking water, basically the pipes leaking and seeping water and contaminants into the water system. Now, when you talk about having the water bowsers that have been registered, yes, by the NMS, can the NMS talk about the cleanliness, the portability of this water? Say, water has been delivered to you by a bowser, it is safe for drinking, or must you then start thinking about treating it?
Yes, that's the main reason why we have registered these water bowsers, because officially they are supposed to collect water from specific water points. By registering them and ensuring in their registration they indicate their source of water, then it is not only an insurance to ensure that this water is clean, but also that they pay for the services that they get from these water points. So yes, the water bowsers that are registered by us and Ministry of Water, their sources are safe. Those are inspected by water inspectors from Nairobi Water Services and Ministry of Water to ensure that whatever is sold to wananchi is clean water.
Tell us about the boreholes that you've sunk in other parts of Nairobi. This had also been done by the Ministry of Water.
Yes. Remember that when NMS was created, COVID had just started. So one of the functions was to ensure that people clean their hands or wash their hands frequently. Now, most of the slums and informal settlement and disadvantaged areas, say areas around Eastlands and so forth, never had any water. These people in informal settlement and disadvantaged areas actually bought water more expensive than what you and I get from Nairobi water through our taps. You will find a water jerrycan costing between 5 shillings and 20 shillings, depending on an area, for a 20-liter jerrycan. While if you filled it from your tap, a water jerrycan of 20 liters through Nairobi water would cost you less than 2 shillings. So the people living in disadvantaged areas and informal settlement usually are low salary earners, yet paid a lot for water. So the first thing was to address this gap. So when NMS was formed, we actually borrowed 10 water bowsers to ensure that water is distributed free, safe and free water to all informal settlements. Because of the need then, and even now, because of COVID, the water demand was a lot. So we have increased our capacity. We have now bought our own water bowsers. There are 22 of them that distribute water daily to informal settlement. But this was the initial measure to address then the requirement of COVID. But we are still continuing up to today. But in the middle term, we had to dig boreholes around all informal settlements and disadvantaged areas so that wananchi could get free water to cater for their needs, drinking water, and for other uses, household uses. Initially, in our 100 days in office, we dug 93 boreholes around the county. But as we dug and distributed this free water, the demand increased double. So after the 100 days, we went back to negotiate with national government if they could give us money to do 100 more. And I'm glad to report that with December, the second lot of 100 have already been completed. There are few still to be connected to electricity, but they are completely dark with 100,000 liter tank, stainless steel on top, with an efficient pump and a water kiosk. These water kiosks are usually manned by youths of those specific areas to ensure that we cut out cartels who go to sell water in these areas. So the youth control the distribution of water within their areas. And since they know all inhabitants within their areas, we believe with the current administrations of chiefs in the areas, this is an efficient way of supplying water to all informal settlements and disadvantaged areas without it going for other uses.
General, one of the other issues that was under your purview was health, or is health. And you're also looking at the construction of several hospitals around the NMS. And I believe what we heard last week was that a few of those will be completed in the coming days, weeks, and then they'll be ready to be commissioned for use. How has this been going so far, with the clear pressure that there is, or the heavy burden of sound, proper health facilities within the metropolitan area?
As I said before, just like the water need within informal settlement, NMS was formed during or when COVID had started. So when we went around to inspect most of the informal settlement, there were non-existing public hospitals. We started off with Nakuru. There are 5 Mukurus, and the bigger ones being Mukuru kwa Njenga, Mukuru kwa Ruben, and Mukuru Viwandani. Then it's cut off by that road of the airport. Then there is Mukuru Fuatanyayo and Mukuru Pipeline. All these Mukurus house almost 500,000 people. If you walk through Mukuru fast, those areas have never had roads, water, or sewerage connected to them since independence. So that was the biggest hassle that we faced. Mm-hmm. Unlike Mukuru, the other big slums like Kibera, Mathare, usually had advantage of NGOs or international NGOs coming to their aid. Mukuru, nothing was done. Although there were plans to upgrade it just like the other slums, but nothing had happened on ground. So first and foremost, we had to ensure that there was access to that slum, supply of water too. So when we went inspecting around, we found one hostel that is run by a Catholic church, a Denmark Catholic church, that had a bed capacity of 8 beds for maternity. You can imagine 500,000 people relying on an 8-bed hostel. This was a disaster. That's when we wrote a report and came back to national government, requesting them to immediately address this health problem. We were authorized because after inspecting all the slums, there were non-existing public hostels. Mm-hmm. So we have been authorized. The county has started building 5 of them in different areas, but left them halfway. So we have taken upon ourselves to contact those contractors, and most of them abandoned their work because of non-payment. Mm-hmm. So we have engaged them, and they are willing, or they have agreed to continue working as we promise to pay them past their balance for whatever is left to be done. and then pursue the county to ensure that whatever is due for them is paid. Then we had to build other hostels, totaling 24. That means 19 new ones, and continue with the 5, totaling 24. We immediately had a contract set, and we are going to build all the hostels and equip them for almost 900 million. So we are operating under a squeezed budget, but we are now seeing the fruits with the effect of, by the end of this month, that is end of this week, we'll be opening or commissioning 2 hostels per week continuously until we finish all of them commissioning. And they will be operational. The ones that we are opening 2 hostels per week, they will be fully equipped and manned by medical staff. So I think this will address the current shortage of public hospitals. 2, it will decongest Kenyatta Hospital, Mama Lucy, and Bagavi, because these are other government hospitals, where people rush for even minor illness. So to decongest, so these hospitals become referred hospitals. Like Kenyatta will now be a referral and teaching hospital. So with these hospitals coming round, we do believe that most of what is required basically within every sector will be addressed. To cater for that, we are upgrading also Mama Lucy to level 5, and we have already issued tenders for the upgrade. We are starting soon building extensions of Mama Lucy. Then we have taken control of a hospital that was in Korokocho, or what we call Mathare North. This hospital was intended during President Moi's days to be a level 5 hospital. Unfortunately, it was started almost 2 decades ago and abandoned halfway because of payment. When President Kibaki came in, he pumped in almost 400 million to ensure that it was completed. Unfortunately, it did not happen.
Wow.
We were tasked to ensure that that hospital is complete and operational this year. We have taken up on the task, contacted those contractors, where some of the contractors have disappeared. We have issued tenders for new ones. We are now working on it. It should be ready in February, complete, a 5-story building, complete with its mortuary and all other facilities of level 5, including ICUs and etc. So we will be able to commission this hospital hopefully by April, because the equipment that is required to man the whole hospital is huge. So we have requested the government to start the budget of equipping that hospital, and we are negotiating with National Treasury to ensure that we are able to complete that hospital this financial year. We are very hopeful. Once the infrastructure is completed next month, we'll now embark on employing doctors and nurses and other health officials to cater for that hospital to be operational, hopefully by end of April, if we receive the money to buy the equipment.
Wish we had a 2-hour session with you because the number of questions that we want to ask and the questions that are being posted for us are so many. But there's one which has been asked by more than one person. Borders, CBD.
Yes, we are trying to control borders just like other PSV vehicles, matatus, and so forth. So yes, they'll not be allowed within CBD. We are already engaging all the organizations of border to ensure compliance. So far, all indications are if we build the matatu or PSV terminal to the standards that they are expecting, all of them are willing to terminate their services at these specific PSV terminals. Remember, these will be modern PSV terminals, which will have drop-off points, specific drop-off points for different circles, different routes, specific pickup points. There'll be resting area, there'll be restaurants, hospital, police station, and a fuel station within these bus terminals to cater for all their needs. There'll also be a resting place for long-distance matatus should the drivers need to take a nap.
So people are also talking about, as we talk about the borders, there's the behavior of the PSVs in general. So there's the matatus and the behavior or misbehavior of matatus on the roads, and now the emerging misbehavior of border operators on the roads. Does the NMS have any mandate in controlling and ensuring that they adhere to the rule of law and that they operate as they should? Borders.
As much as we want to control them, remember this will be a multi-agency operation. It's not only us, but it will include NTSA and the National Police Service Traffic to ensure that all rules are complied with. One, it will require retraining or training of all the border crew to ensure that they are safe, reliable, and law-abiding. It's not an easy task, but we have already specific NGOs who are ready to sponsor their training. So we are working in conjunction with the police and NTSA and the border circles to ensure that they get this training free of charge. Those that do not have helmets are sponsored to have helmets so that they become law-abiding.
Major General Mohammed Badi Abdallah, the Director General of the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, thank you very much for speaking to us. You've done quite a bit in a short time that you've been in office, like you've explained. People have seen your work, and here what we like to do is to applaud when applaud is needed. You know, and that's what we're doing there. Asante sana.
Very much.
Asante sana. As we come to the end of the show, General, we always have the day's proverb, and it's given by C.T. Muga. Just listen to the proverb and let's hear what it means today.
The opportunity given to a monkey to wear clothes does not guarantee it joining the dining table.
That is true, Moga. But you can make it behave.
You can make the monkey behave, right?
Ishiki adabu.
You can always tell my monkey to eat properly.
Right.
If it accepts to dress properly, then you
It
can
can
also
eat
go to
You
the
can eat properly.
But what's the application of this city? I mean, why this?
I think the general has gotten the general gist of it. Mm-hmm. General, what do you think is the gist of this?
I think you're talking about disorder that has been in the county. Remember that if it is bribing, it starts with common manage. If it is a law breaking by PSVs, borders, it's done by the common manage. the best we can do is train them, talk to them, and engage them. Remember, they belong to society which we come from. And if properly managed, we have already started engaging most of the Matatu circles and border. And we believe through road safety training and other training, we'll be able to contain this menace. There are so many problems that have been encountered by the county, but I do believe by engaging the society and all the stakeholders involved in a multi-agency approach or the whole of government approach, we will be able to bring sanity back.
Jemedari, asante sana for speaking to us. There are those that will ask political questions. We're not going to ask them today, but maybe in future, might you consider answering a political question like, would you run? Watu wako wakikuambia.
It is time.
It is time.
Ama labda unaweza kusikia mwito.
At the moment, no, because I'm still uniform.
Right.
So if I mention, I'll be charged tomorrow. until I get off uniform, then I'll be
Then
able
you can
to
consider.
Asante sana.
Yes.
Have a lovely day,
Thank you
General.
You too. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for tuning into the Situation Room today. Join us again tomorrow for more conversations of this nature. Until 3 o'clock, you have uninterrupted music, and then Monique will be here to take you home 3 to 7 on Spice Drive. And then the adults in the room, Emmanuel, Eric, and Barbara will be here from 7 to 10. We'll be here tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. CT Muga, Nduoko, and Eric Latif wishing you a lovely day.